or at least, I mean, I could be one of the DJs and provide sound if you need it. You know how where like if other DJs wanted to get down, and because they had that DJ fest down there a couple weeks ago, Vader does, and it was such a good turnout and such a good event. I mean, I don't see why they don't. They like you said, that implement that it could be easily done again, not done again like that, but if you had, we could do that kind of same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Sir, who's all on the show today? Do you know?
I think it's me, you, Phil, Lakita, and I think Nathan said maybe one more person, or maybe not.
Damon.
Damon. Yeah.
Okay. Phil's gonna get his interruptions in today. I'm sure he will get them in today.
You know, he's been pretty good. He's been better these last couple of shows. I mean, ever since we dog walked him on the Irish Rolly show and told him to calm down and be quiet, he's been a model citizen.
Oh, and we've had Todd on the show before, but he reached out to me, or we reached out to each other mutually, whatever. And he would like to come back on. He's He's a fan of our show. So I was like, oh,
Cool. Let's get him on.
cool. So yeah, I'll let him see maybe next Tuesday or something.
Hey Nathan, so I saw your post last week about the show, which I thought was good. By the way, very heartfelt. Uh, and I meant to text you and ask you this. Like, have you been looking at like what are the metrics of the show looking like of late?
Yeah, I haven't went underneath the hood and really looked at it. What I've been looking at primarily is on Facebook the number of comments that we get,
Uh huh.
because that tells me are people in the stream and interacting with us and also with each other. So that's the only metrics that I've really looked at this point.
Got it.
I think
And
the
then
chat.
all the other stuff like subs and followers and stuff like that.
I think the chat lit. The chat's lit all the time. There's always some good conversation and some good chatter going on in the chat all the time.
Yeah, it's hard to
We can talk more about it though when we're offline though, and get in more
yeah,
detail with you.
for sure. No, nothing urgent. I was just curious, um, just to know how and if the show's kind of growing a little bit. I mean, I
The
feel like it is. I feel like it is, but
the last reels that I like, the last episode that we did the last Tuesday, cut up some reels and put them out, and I think I 10,000 views throughout Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and I think the most popular one was Lakita's. When Lakita was saying, and then when Nathan was talking about the sci-fi, the how the robots are going to take over. That one was a good one too.
Yeah, so I appreciate those vids, man, those clips. I appreciate that. Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, didn't see the numbers, but yeah, that's great. That's great. Absolutely. Hey, what's up, Pat? Good to see you. Let me share the show actually while we're here.
Oh yeah, the numbers on these reels. One of them is at 865 on Facebook. One of them is 573. Lakita's is at 2,400, and the one where I talk about the gas prices is 2,100. So that collectively is 6,000 just on one platform on social media of the clips. I think we're doing good. It's going to be a good one today, though. It's looking at the topics. It's going to be a nice.
Yeah, hopefully I can get Phil mad, make him mad, pull him out of his shell.
Wait.
Phil be getting too comfortable, man. Got to make him uncomfortable. Speak of the devil.
I'm not the devil, sir, if you don't mind.
I was just talking about you.
Well, I hope you didn't use my name in vain.
No, I did not.
I did.
Oh, you a pastor of all things.
See?
Hey, I'm told the truth shall set you free.
Yeah, well, maybe so, but well, anyway, yeah.
I'll come back for that, huh? Okay, what?
When are
All
you
right.
when are you preaching next, sir? May I ask? Do you have a date, time?
I do not. So I kind of serve at the pleasure of the pastor. So whenever he gives the okay, got to be ready.
So when they want the fire and brimstone, they call you, is what you're saying.
I don't know about all that.
What's wrong with your camera, Phil?
What's that? By the way, would you tell
your head's cut off? I mean, it looks good from my vantage point, but your head.
Me? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you, brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Why
like
is
you
that?
got a little, like there's
Something across your camera. Yeah.
It doesn't make sense because it's
Something's
guys.
on your camera.
Hey guys, we are live. We're in the pre-show, so just so you know.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, Phil, something's on your camera.
I
You're cut.
think I see the problem.
I mean, I actually kind of like it.
Great.
Funny. Hey, look, I got a question. Would you talk to your pastor, and did they ever have, shall we say, guest pastors? Someone with deep biblical knowledge, insight, articulate. Is that, there is any? Does that ever happen? I mean, I'm just asking for a
Who are
friend.
you recommending? You?
You're darn right, me. I can
Okay.
preach.
Well,
I can preach, pal.
I need to hear you first before I make any recommendations
Okay.
like that.
Yeah, all right.
I
Actually,
want to hear you. I want to see you bring the word. I want to
send me a cut.
yeah, I will. Well, actually, I haven't really I used to lead. Well, I haven't really preached much, but I did. I I did used to. I guess they scraped the bottom of the barrel, but they used to have those things called mayor's prayer breakfast or business outreach. Where they get business people to bring a friend, and you hear a message of testimony. I did speak at a lot of those, I might say.
That's a good thing to do, though,
And
Phil.
I may send you my my message so you can listen to it and how can I say revise it, attack it, quarrel with it. I think I'll send that to you. I may send it to Nathan too.
Yeah, Phil, when I used to have my own pulpit, I would have guest speakers come,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say, frequently, but pretty regularly. But I don't have that authority to make those decisions.
Yeah, I know. All right. It might be just helpful. You might say change of pace, perhaps.
It would be an interesting change of pace, that's for sure. I have no doubt you would handle yourself well, my friend.
Well, you're kind. Thank you. I appreciate that.
He
Thank
put
you.
me to sleep in church. I'm telling you, he put me to sleep. I go to sleep. Phil started preaching. I'll be like,
Hey, hey, pal.
I'll be like,
Let me tell you right now, you wouldn't be sleeping if I was preaching. Believe me.
Yeah. Bored to death.
Yeah.
Kamiki said we thought we were switching feel for Phil's son.
I'm going to address that, by the way, when we begin our broadcast.
We're already live, Phil.
Yeah, but we haven't started the show yet, have we?
Yeah, man, we're live.
We're in the pre-show.
It's a pre-show.
Hey guys, you guys can handle the pre-show. I do the real thing. Okay, come on, come on.
This is the real thing.
It's you know how it is when you have a big performer. They have an opening act that kind of keeps the audience attention, but they always want the real thing to come out. You know how that is. Let's be honest. Come on,
Allen Iverson. It's just practice. It's practice.
Kevin,
Good thing we don't have egos on this. Good thing we don't have egos on this panel.
Absolutely. If you guys could kind of, I try to model humility, for all of you, and so I hope that's.
You do a great job.
Thank
man.
you.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Kevin, I wonder, are we going to get to the transfer stuff? I mean, I hope we do, because that's just.
You know what's so funny about this? You know what's so funny about
back
this
and
show?
forth on this, huh?
Yeah, you know what's so funny about this show that I enjoy is that all of us have a particular issue that is a needle that all of us, Nathan in particular, likes to jab at. With Phil is college sports and the transfer portal. Terrace is probably the Minnesota Somalians.
Oh no! Before that, it was Bowman. Whatever that guy was, Bowman. That was his thing.
Yeah, Corey Bowman. He was on Bowman for a while.
Mantra. That was his mantra.
Yeah. We all got one particular thing that gets us going. And I enjoy that most of all because it always tends to come back when you kind of least expect it. I personally, just so you know, I look for those transition opportunities in every conversation that we have on here. As soon as I see an opening. I thought I did a good job last show slipping that jab on the transfer portal, Phil.
I hate to say this. I feel where did that come in last show? I don't remember that.
I'm trying to remember what was the. Oh, we were talking about your oyster party.
Yeah.
What was with the drinks, and I asked if I could bring somebody from the transfer portal.
Yeah, I'm sure you got a lot of friends. I'm surprised he hasn't suggested that whole Sorsby thing for this show. That seems like the kind of thing that we'd kind of bat around, huh?
Dennis Doyle wrote a good piece today, kind of breaking that down.
Did he? Okay. I don't know if I read it. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think he has some legal background as well.
Yeah.
And he was kind of talking about what the ruling actually meant.
Right.
But it is interesting that, kind of what he was saying, that where the judge was kind of coming down on is like the NCAA has this problem with this contradiction by sort of being in bed with the sports betting business. It's sort of like, how do you punish players who are basically victims of a system that
So you're saying, I didn't know. I know the pro leagues do. You're saying they actually have some cooperative arrangements with the betting companies?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Well, like I said, you can put this down in history. The time that when Phil Heimlich agrees with Tommy Tuberville, it's got to be pretty significant.
Really?
You mean Tommy Tuberville actually said something that made sense?
I texted you two. I sent you the clip, or you sent the clip to me about Tuberville wanting to provide some legislation to provide some order or structure. And I said in the text to you guys, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I agree with Tommy Tuberville on this.
You agree? They got to get them in line, huh, Phil? Get them in line. They out here running them up, making too much money. They're doing too much. These athletes are getting too much freedom. You got to get them in line.
Hey, save it for the show. Okay, come on.
Save it for the show. Okay. All right. Speaking of which, let's get started, guys. We are scheduled. Damon Lynch is scheduled to join us. I'm gonna double check with him, make sure he has the link. But we're gonna get the show officially started. Everybody backstage. Afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. We bring the crew on and take the cover off. Bear with me just 1 second. And there we are. We live. What's up? How is everybody? Good to see you.
Good. Hey,
Lakita, Nicole, how are you?
I'm good. How
to
are
see
you?
Phil Heimlich. Doing great. Phil Heimlich, how you doing, sir?
Well, I'm a little troubled, to tell you the truth, because on the last show, my son Henry made a brief appearance, and there seemed to be kind of a groundswell of support in the chat that he should replace me on this show. And I'm very sensitive. You know me, I have a kind of a fragile ego. And then there was somebody who said, this is in the chat, since Phil is so old, how come he has a teenage son? Well, I'll answer that question. Why? You know why? Because I'm shooting bullets. That's why.
Oh man! Wow!
Yeah, that's why.
Wow!
That's it.
Hey Phil, I can't have you in the pulpit talking like that, man.
Oh,
Right.
Hey, look, I tell it like it is, buddy.
Okay. Kevin Aldridge, how you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing good, Nathan. Glad to be back. Good to see everybody on here.
Yep.
Ready to get it going.
Absolutely. Terrace, how you doing, sir? The elephant in the room.
Doing very well, man. Good to be here. Hopefully we can get chatter today.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, to the chat, appreciate you being here. We typically start, it's like a pre-show, like about 1-ish, typically 101, somewhere around there. Just as people are coming in, and we've been chopping it up with some folks for a while here, so really appreciate it. And I'll try to get to everybody and say thank you as the show is going. But let's get started here. I read that the Captain Danitta Pettis, Black female, I think she was the first ever Cincinnati police Black female captain ever. And, you know, she lost her job, then got it back. And now she is suing the city of Cincinnati, alleging numerous things, like basically that she was targeted. I read a blurb in the news in which part of the lawsuit says that, like, there was some kind of like inter-office correspondence, email, whatever, and somebody made the point that somehow she was anti-male. I'm like, what? But to your knowledge, you know, we maybe have different knowledge of what's going on here. But what does this say to you about the Cincinnati Police Department? Should we be concerned by this? Does it prove that the DEI still needs to be put in place? That we need to keep our eyes on diversity efforts and the power dynamics inside these institutions? But again, those are some thoughts to get us started. But what's your take on this? To the crew, anybody can jump in.
I mean, I would say that we always need to answer maybe your questions in no particular order. We always need to keep our eye on quote unquote DEI or diversity or fairness or equal opportunity. I think that's the way that I would, DEI is such a loaded term. But to me, all of that simply means is, equal opportunity and making sure that, people, whether it's a Captain Pettis or a Teresa Thigi or whomever you want to name, the diverse people have the same opportunities to advance and be promoted as somebody else. I mean, look, every workplace is messy, right? Is it? And I wish Brother Dre was on here because, he was in that. Obviously, he's a big proponent of Captain Pettis, and of course, he worked in active on this. Would probably be more valuable than mine in terms of what the nature of the internally what the police department is like. But it definitely is not a good look when you got an internal document circulating around saying that the only reason somebody got promoted was because of affirmative action and that she hates men or whatever. I mean, that's not a good look. And then you have to assume that whatever grounds they fire her on, didn't hold up, obviously, because she got her job back. What I think is interesting, Nathan, is this musical chairs of lawsuits that the city is going through right now. It's like Captain Pettis gets fired, she comes back, she sues the city. Thigi, the one who fired her, gets fired, now she's suing the city. It's like you got all of these different, lawsuits right now that are floating around the city, and these are just the ones that we know about. I was thinking about this the other day. I wonder how much the city of Cincinnati is paying out annually in these, tort and non-tort civil cases that they're facing every year. And how many of those are the result of just bad management? I mean, I think we see in every one of these situations where they fire somebody and didn't follow procedures or whatever, and then it goes to arbitration, and that person gets their job back or whatever, gets back pay, gets benefits, and then they turn around and sue the city. It seems like it's kind of a recurring theme.
It is. You know why? Because it is. That happens in big cities, Kevin.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I'm not suggesting that it doesn't happen in big cities, because I think it does. But the larger question is not that it doesn't happen in big cities, but it is a question about, how these city departments are being run. Are they following proper procedures, and are they covering their bases when they want to go to move to take action on somebody so that it sticks? Like if you fire somebody with just cause, it should stick if you've done everything that you should do. The fact that so many of these cases go to arbitration and people wind up getting their job. It's been the history of Cincinnati Police Department. When is the last time CPD has fired an officer and it's stuck?
Well, I've had a lot of.
I don't have the knowledge, but what's the point?
My point is if you keep firing people and you can't make it stick, that means that clearly your policies you're not following.
It doesn't mean that.
What does it mean, Phil? What does it mean? What does it mean that you fire somebody, it goes to arbitration, and they get their job back? If you had solid grounds and you had dotted all your I's and crossed all your T's, you would think it would stick.
No. Okay. Here's my experience. I've been through a lot of these. In this, first of all, it is almost impossible to fire a Cincinnati police officer. And it isn't just this kind of stuff. I don't care if it's excessive violence, whatever. It is almost impossible. And here's how the system works. There was an internal report in this case that said this woman not only lied, but she put false information into the payroll system, and she was abusive to other officers. And that was what the report said. And my experience is in these reports, they don't make this up. They don't make it up, and they don't do it because somebody's white or black. Usually they're pretty accurate. But I'll tell you what else is my experience. Every single time the arbitrator reinstates the police, I don't care what it is. Could be violence, could be theft, anything. They always reinstate them. And it has to do, I don't know I forget it has to do with how these arbitrators are hired. Okay, but my recollection is they have a strong incentive to support the police. I challenge you to find one of these cases where the arbitrator ever ruled for the city. So, and in my humble opinion, that isn't because the evidence is always weak. And I'll tell you something else. I saw anytime there was a black police officer or employee for that matter, but a black police officer that was accused of anything, the Sentinels and the NAACP always claim racial discrimination, always support the officer, no matter what he or she did. That was my experience time after time. And once again, I say it is very, very hard to fire a bad cop. To fire a bad cop. And when the fact that Thigi fired her, knowing how the system works, I suspect Thigi felt that the evidence against this person was overwhelming.
Unlike the evidence against her.
I don't know what the evidence against her was. I don't know. I'm just telling you, I know how it works. And for her, I don't, as I said, they don't make up those reports. They don't.
So this was the point why I was making about the musical chairs, right? So if you believe what Phil just said, then you got to believe, then throw the whole politics argument out of the window with Thigi, because they don't lie on these reports. They don't make things up on these reports. They don't get them wrong. If they file a report on
you're talking about two different reports. You're misunderstanding me. The report.
Why does Thigi's report have any more credibility than the report against her?
I'll explain that. I'm referring to the internal police investigations, which my experience is they're pretty accurate. This was not a police report on Thigi. It was an outside law firm they hired, okay? And they had no evidence, no facts. Whereas when I've seen internal police reports, they're pretty strong on the facts and specific incidents. So they're two different things.
So are you saying that there's no way, since it was an internal police, that there's no way, there's no bias could be happening, is what you're saying to me? Because that's what I'm hearing. There can't be a bias against this black woman.
What I am saying is my experiences is every time a black officer is accused of misconduct, there is a powerful lobby that always, Sentinels and NAA, always claims discrimination. And in my experience, I can remember specific incidents when I was on city council. What happens is they put pressure on city council, and the city council then pressures the city manager to dismiss it, which is what John Shirey did. There was one officer who was accused of pretty serious things, but I remember the hearing. Everybody got up, and Shirey basically said, "Okay, I'll dismiss it." That's my experience.
But the bias being not necessarily what they've done. The bias is he's not the only person. They're not the only person who's done it. The bias is they're bringing charges against this officer, but don't bring the same charges against white officers who do the same thing and not more. That could be the bias. It's not necessarily what
you have evidence of that.
Bias.
Do you have evidence of that?
Other officers doing the same exact thing, they say nothing about it. But when the black officer does it, it's all hell break loose.
Okay, well, that's in my experience. That in my experience.
Well, that's mine. That was my experience. And it continues to be my experience. And it continues to be my experience as a black woman. That when your white counterparts do the same exact thing.
Nah, we're not talking about white women. We're talking about Cincinnati Police Department.
Don't change the subject. With the Tracy Hunter thing, the Tracy Hunter case, all them charges they had. That's why most of them pulled out.
You want to talk about Tracy Hunter?
They were doing those same exact. Those judges were found to do the same exact thing, but when she did it, it was a problem.
If you think Tracy Hunter was disciplined or charged because of her race, you are totally wrong. Because I know the lawyers involved, I know the facts involved, and there are many African American referees.
Are you saying that what she did that none of the white judges were doing the same thing?
She broke the law. That's what she did. She broke the law.
So are you saying none of the white, answer the question, are you saying none of the white officers were doing the same thing?
But let me put it this way.
None of the white judges were doing the exact same thing.
Well, you're saying, have I done an examination of every single incident in the Cincinnati Police Department? I have not, and I have not. I'm just telling you, I'm just giving you my experience, okay? That's my experience. And it's particularly important to point out, okay, that the fact that an arbitrator put her back on the street means, my opinion, nothing, because I've never seen them uphold firing of a cop.
Just the two of you. Did she set you straight, Phil?
Did she set me straight?
Yeah. Do you understand what she was trying to say now?
Oh, I understand what she's trying to say. Yes. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk. If you want to talk about the Tracy Hunter thing, we can talk about that sometime.
Well, let's bring Tracy Hunter on, and we can talk with her directly about it. I think that's a hot mic moment right there.
Oh, sure. Bring her on. Yeah. It's fine.
Because I don't remember all the details. I just remember thinking it was a bunch of BS.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, she was, I believe she went to
and they were mad because she won. They didn't expect her to win. They were mad because she was won. They were mad when she closed those cameras off and wouldn't allow those news cameras to come in there on those juveniles, because every time you turn around, they showcase and put the black youth juvenile pictures up, but they would never do it to the whites. And she stopped them from coming in, and that's when all hell broke loose. That's why it took so long from there even to validate her being a judge, because they did not want her to be a judge. In fact, that's when they put the other person in there. So that's where it all started at. That's where it started.
Yeah.
She didn't break no law because she won. They were breaking the law by keeping her out. They didn't want her to be a judge.
Yeah. And that's so they made up all those. They made up all those crimes. Let me tell you something. The two guys who
prosecuted. It was a problem from the start. What are you talking about, Phil? It was a problem from the start. She never was sworn in when she was supposed to be sworn in. It was a problem before she even got to be a judge. Before she even got sworn in, when she won the election, they had a problem with it.
What do you mean they had a problem? What do you mean? Who did?
The Republicans.
You.
Me? I have a problem. What do you I don't know what you mean. They had a problem.
If the shoe don't fit, then don't lace it. If the shoe don't fit, don't lace it.
Well, let me tell you something. I served as in front of many black judges. Okay, and I could run down Judge Sherman.
Now you sound like them prejudiced people.
Excuse me.
I got plenty of black friends. I don't care about how many
calm down. Why don't you just calm down for a minute? I served in front of many.
I don't care about any of that. I don't care about any of those black judges you served in front of. That's not what I'm talking about.
They didn't get charged. They were Democrats.
They had a problem with Judge Tracy Hunter. She will forever be Judge Tracy Hunter to me from the get-go when she won the election. And so you knew they were going to go after her from the start.
Well, why have they gone after all the other black judges?
Even filming those juveniles.
Well, as I started to say before, Lakita interrupted me several times. I have served or as a prosecutor acted in front of many black judges, most of whom were and mostly Democrats, most of whom were excellent judges, and nobody ever charged them with crimes. Nobody ever did. They were respected. Judge Mallory, I could go down the list. Judge Sherman, I could go down the list. And if you're saying, oh, well, they were out to get her because whatever, black Democrat, then why didn't they go after all the others? Why weren't all the other black judges charged with crimes?
I just told you from the get-go, before even charges were even filed, before she even was sworn in, are you telling me they didn't have a problem with her being sworn in? Are you
saying there was not a problem from the onset? What do you mean? Who's the they?
Okay.
Politics.
He just said it. The Republican parties, and if you want to, like I said, if you want to include yourself, then lace it up. Lace it up. Lace the shoe up.
Yeah, lace it up, Phil.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
They had
I have no idea.
from the onstart. They had a problem when they found out she won the election. They didn't want her in. That's why it took so long for them to keep counting the ballots.
For whatever that's worth.
What are those Skechers?
Well,
what are those slip-ons?
Those are pricey. Those are those Pomonas. No, what do they call those? Yuccas?
Are those Gucci?
No, somebody told me that I had shoes that were like 10 years old and had holes in, and I was looking like an idiot. And they told me to buy these Hokas or something. It's supposed to be good for my back. I don't know, but anyway, so much for lacing up shoes.
Can we all agree?
Do they work?
Oh, do the shoes work?
Yeah.
Yes, I would say they've been very effective. Thank you.
Can we all agree that this country has a history of not fully supporting Black female leadership? And that as I was reading some of the things through what was reported anyway, one of the things that she is alleging is that there was a document called the Phoenix Project that was circulated to other Cincinnati police officers, alleging that Captain Pettis was promoted due to affirmative action and not her own merit. Like, that's like the kind of thing that completely undermines you on some levels. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, if this is true, who circulated the Phoenix Project? I mean, that's what I want to know. Who are the people behind this? If it's true, are they still on the force?
My guess would be other officers, like just joking around, sending text threads amongst themselves and stuff like that. And then one person, like, you know how that is. You got group messages, the group of guys that send some racy stuff out, and it doesn't mean to get out to people, but it does. And I think this kind of stuff needs to be exposed. But like, you're right. You're asking who? I'm thinking it's probably fellow police officers.
Yeah,
who are joking around with each other, talking about, she's an affirmative act. Even I'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it went around to more than just white officers too on the force.
Like, is this how I guess people feel this way? I guess, like you said, I think you're right, Terrence. Like, people probably joking around, ha ha, he, telling race jokes about their captain. Like, I mean, this is the world we live in. What timeline is this?
Yeah, Nathan, I think it's a product. Some of that is probably a product of the systems that have been put in place to kind of try to address, again, this goes back to you mentioned DEI earlier, but this goes back to all of the things that have been done in recent years and in past years to kind of account for what has been systematic discrimination to keep women, to keep Black people, to keep whatever from being able to achieve certain promotional positions. I mean, for probably the vast majority of the history of the Cincinnati Police Department has been run by white men, mostly from a particular part of the city. And efforts made to correct that, right? Or to give equal opportunity. Again, not to give people opportunities without merit, but to say, hey, the way we've been doing things is producing a fixed result, not because even those people who have those jobs necessarily got them because of merit, but they got them because of a system that excluded whether it's women or Black people from having an equal shot at those jobs. And so when you make the correction, often what you see are those white men come back talking about how things are unfair or how they're being discriminated against. But they never take into account that they've had an unfair advantage all along. So yes, when you take away someone's unfair advantage and give the opportunity to advance to other people, it seems to them like it's unfair or that they're the ones who are being victimized by it. But they never think about all of the people throughout the history who were victimized by not even getting the opportunity. And so that's the part of the conversation when you talk, whether you want to, no matter what label you want to put on it, whether it's affirmative action, DEI, or whatever you want to call it, the original beneficiaries of DEI and affirmative action have been white men because they have been able to exclude women and other minority groups from equal participation and consideration. They haven't had to compete historically against groups. They've only had to compete against other white men because you were never considered. Lakita would have never been considered. Fiji would have never been considered. And so when you start to put programs in place that says, yeah, what you've been doing is BS, and we're going to make sure that people who have skills and ability to have in that job are going to get an equal shot, then to diminish that, people want to start trying to use terminology like that somehow you got something that you didn't deserve. But they never want to consider the fact that perhaps what they got, they didn't deserve because they had an advantage everybody else did.
Yeah, you just described Phil. That's Phil all day. Phil, you want to answer for yourself, sir?
I didn't. I'm sorry. I thought he was. Excuse me. I thought he was talking about historical discrimination against blacks and women. I totally agree.
Yeah,
no,
and that's
I
the
don't
reason why
disagree.
you have to have
I don't know
DEI.
what you mean. It's me, but I don't know what
it's
that
you.
means.
You're anti-DEI, right?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, so if you're anti-DEI,
however, most of what Kevin said, and really, we weren't talking about DEI in this case, but most of what Kevin said was that there has been a long history of terrible discrimination against black people, and I would say against women, not as bad, but women as well. I agree with that.
You know, many years ago I read a book called The Good Black. Many years ago, and it was about that was the title of it. It's called The Good Black, and it was semi-autobiographical. It's about this black dude who went to Harvard. He was valedictorian. He came from like an impoverished community, black, but he specifically tried to not be a stereotype his whole life, right? Went to Ivy League school, went into finance, and he thought that meant that the world was going to accept him, that white people would accept him. And throughout his book, he just chronicled about all of the racist jokes, just like with Sergeant Pettis. Same kind of stuff. I was watching a movie the other day with Jackie Robinson. Same kind of stuff he was dealing with. Like, what is wrong with people? It's like the first black anything always seems to have the same experience when it comes to non-black people. That ain't no coincidence. Whether you're the first black butler at the White House or the first person to break the color barrier or the first black captain, they all seem, or this guy that wrote this book, The Good Black, he was like the first black dude to work in some big time Wall Street firm. They telling racist jokes in the bathroom behind his back. I'm like, what the hell is going on with us? Leave these people alone. Let them just live their lives. What timeline? I mean, I guess when Thanos snapped his fingers, man, it had a huge effect straight through the movies. Like, this is crazy, and it's undeniable. And that's why I don't understand, Phil. How can you on one hand say that you understand that there is systematic racism and oppression, but you don't believe
there has been, obviously some still continues.
Well, according to Pettis, is still going on right now on the police force.
First of all, neither you or I investigated her behavior. Okay, well, let's agree on that. All right, Nathan.
We already know that though, Phil. But go right ahead.
What I'm saying is that in reading about what the evidence against her was, it seemed pretty damn strong. Putting false information into the payroll, okay, is absolutely wrong. It's dishonest. Lying, as she was accused of. Being abusive, whether they were white, male, black, whatever, being abusive to other officers. Okay, that is serious.
What's more likely here?
Just let me finish.
Go
ahead.
I'm
saying is there was a report that came to that conclusion, sufficient enough to cause the chief to fire her, knowing all this was going to happen. Okay? So I'm just telling you, in my experience, and I've been through a lot of these, okay? Time after time after time, when somebody is disciplined, they always bring, if they're black or maybe even female, but always black, they always bring that up. So I guess the point is,
always bring what up?
They always claim discrimination, no matter what happened. And by the way,
what's the percentage
let me say something. I would bet if there was an officer accused of, say, excessive violence, like hypothetically a white police officer, I will almost guarantee you, I don't care what he did, when it goes that if he gets fired, I can almost guarantee, and I've seen many situations with white police officers where they did outrageous stuff and the arbitrator still ruled in their favor every time.
Yeah. The arbitration deal, you were right to bring that up. To my knowledge, right? Yeah, that's definitely an issue. They don't want to go against the police too many times because then they won't be chosen to be arbitrator. And I guess we want to make sure that paycheck's coming in. Yeah, that's a factor of it. But the other factor of it is, so I'm supposed to believe that this black female rises through her own excellence and the hard work she put into it. It's going up the ladder inside the Cincinnati.
It's a test.
Police
Just
Department.
to be clear, it's a test.
I'm just saying, it's an accomplishment. It's an accomplishment.
I agree.
It's an accomplishment, and it says something about her work ethic and the kind of person she was every single day. For her to come in here and rise to the level of captain, and then all of a sudden, she just became this wild card, and she's falsifying records.
I think you missed something. She was. What do you mean? Nobody said she was perfect before. What do you mean that she was a model officer? She must have been good enough to rise to the level of captain. She passed the test. That's what you have to do.
It's a whole lot of people that have become police officers.
By the way, passing that test, passing that test says nothing about character. It
does say something about her character and her work ethic. It absolutely does.
Read the stuff they learned. That's the test. Now that's how it works.
You can't walk. Hold on, Phil. Do not diminish the incredible amount of hard work, discipline, character that it takes to rise to the level of captain on the police force. You're not going to sit here and telling me that doesn't mean anything. And that the people that rose to that position, they just took a test.
Okay,
no, Phil, they didn't just take a test. They put many
a lot of those
years of hard work on the line.
How many police captains, lieutenants, and chiefs have been on the take in this country? Do you know how often that occurs? You're telling me about this country.
How is that relevant to Danitta Pettis?
The worst police. I'll tell you if you'll let me finish. They had the worst kind of thing, in the Baltimore Police Department. There's a great HBO series on it, taking money and everything. Many of them had risen to the rank of lieutenant and captain and assistant chief. Many. So you're saying, no, they have to be of great character, those Baltimore cops, because they became a lieutenant or they became a captain. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying, Phil. That's what I'm saying is, do not diminish the hard work that these men and women have put into decades to even be in a position to be considered to be a police captain, and you acting like it's nothing. That's wrong. But that's what we do. But that's what we do with black females.
I don't minimize her accomplishments, but it was basically passing a test.
You are minimizing her.
What about a lawyer?
You minimize her feeling. You compare her to some kind of
I don't care.
criminal
I'm just
action.
talking about what she was accused of here. That was what we were talking about.
What about your test? What about a law test? You say it's just a test. If lawyers have to take the bar exam, right? But if anybody take the bar exam, and
that's a good point. It's a good point. You know how many crooked lawyers there are? There are how many crooked lawyers there?
And then go get your law degree, and then go get your other stuff. That's the same accomplishment you have to do to get to the ranks of being a captain in the police force. I mean, wouldn't you say?
It's a great example. Do you think passing the bar is any evidence of good character?
It shows some character that you have the ability to follow through and to finish and get your degree and to do this and your work ethic.
Todd Blanche passed the bar. He rose up to a high level.
I was asking the question if they were the same equivalency as the bar exam as to the test that you were saying that is not important for her to take. So
no, I didn't say test wasn't important. I'm just saying I was just responding to Nathan, who said, look at how could she ever have, if she wasn't a fantastic officer, how could she ever become a captain? And I'm just saying, I don't minimize the accomplishment. I'm just saying you passed the test. It is like the bar test.
You're minimizing her accomplishments the way that this country minimizes the accomplishments of black women. And that's a part of our problem.
All those cops in Baltimore. You think those crooked cops that were captains, lieutenants? You say, I'm minimizing those.
But we're not talking about Baltimore, Bill. We're talking about this case. We're just talking about this case. We're not talking about.
We were talking about it. You're talking about that she must be great because she became a captain. I thought we were sticking to the facts of this case.
Yeah, and the facts is that she put a lot of hard work, discipline, put her life on the line for many years for this city as she rose to the level of captain. And then as soon as she became a captain, it seems like people had a problem with her. All of a sudden, she can't do anything right. All of a sudden, she's anti-male, right? All of a sudden, people allegedly
How do you know there weren't complaints against her when she was in a lower rank? Do you know?
I don't know, but I do know that whatever the complaints were, Phil.
All of a sudden thing, that's your words.
I do. You're right. I don't know. But here's what I do know, Phil. I do know that whatever she may have done that's in her file, it didn't stop her from rising in leadership. So what? She still rose in leadership.
Because all she had to do
could have been that bad.
I've explained how the promotions occur in Cincinnati Police Department and in most police departments. That's how it happens.
They earn it, Phil. They earn it. That's how the promotions work. They earn it.
Okay, they earn it. But
okay, so she earned it.
Once again, I'm going back and forth here. There have been, not just here, but in all around, there have been a ton of crooked cops that rose.
We're not talking about crooked cops. We're talking about Danitta Pettis on the Cincinnati police force.
Why you're saying because she became a captain, she's an honest, great person.
Phil, why do you keep trying to compare this black captain to criminal behavior? Why do you keep doing that? You keep linking her to crooked cops and crooked lawyers.
I'm responding to your point that becoming a captain means you're just got to be a super wonderful, honest person, which it does not.
You're muted, Nathan.
Phil, it means that she earned it, period. She put herself in a position. She put the hard work in. She passed the test. She put her life on the line. She earned it. Why do you keep trying to take that away from her? She earned it.
I'm not taking it away.
He believes what was in that report on her.
Yeah. I don't deny her accomplishment in becoming a captain.
All right, Phil Heimlich. I understand. Let's move on. Let's talk about Toledo. Unfortunately, there was a tragic mass shooting up in Toledo. That's the new catchphrase for shootings now. But this one appears to meet what I would call the definition for it. But just very tragic. 12 people were struck. This happened back at on June 6th, just a few days ago, at a street festival in Toledo. I'm sure it might be some people that have a Toledo connection here with us. My daughter goes to school not too far from there, in her last year, by the way. So go College Buddha. But the governor put out a statement on X. Everybody loves Elon. Looks like they're going to force you to buy his stocks now. Good, you get to make him a trillionaire, and you don't have no say so in it whatsoever. Don't you love America? Don't you love freedom? When they force you to invest in a company run by someone whose political motivations might be anathema to yours, but you're forced to do that. Welcome to America. But that's just a little side flow right there. Let me get back to this Toledo thing. So Mike DeWine, Governor Mike DeWine, who's on his way out, he put out a statement just expressing his condolences and well wishes and things like that. And it's like what are we going to do about this? Is this just a new reality? Like, why do mass shootings continue despite widespread agreement that they're a problem? It feels like everybody agrees that this is a bad thing. We want to stop it. Why haven't we? What do we need to do?
Well, I think it's a difficult issue to stop, right? So I am of the mind frame of, instead of us arguing about which particular issue is the silver bullet, I think all of them are silver bullets, no pun intended. And maybe that's a bad, reference considering the topic that we're talking about, but you get the idea that it's not just one thing that we need to do to address this issue of mass shootings. It's many things. It is gun regulation. It's making sure that it's not easy for people to get a hold of automatic weapons and things of that nature. And that doesn't mean that you're taking people's guns away and their right to, conceal carry and that sort of thing. But it does mean that we take assault weapons that are capable of killing many, many dozens of people at one time, where you have these types of shootings that take place. Like, those are the types of weapons that we want to make sure as best we can to keep them off the street. And is anything foolproof? No. I mean, I've said this a million times that people with murder on their mind are going to find a way to do it. You can make it difficult for them, but if it's not a weapon, it'll be a crock pot filled with ball bearings like they did in Boston, during that race. So it's difficult to stop people with murderous intent because you don't always see it coming. You can't anticipate it. More police isn't going to solve it. More gun control isn't going to solve it. More mental health services alone isn't going to solve it. But I think that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing everything we can to enhance all of those things, to limit access to guns, to make sure that we have, adequate police protection and services, to make sure that we are having mental health supports, whether that's in schools or in our communities, and that we're getting to troubled people before they have an opportunity to do that. But I think we keep grasping for this one solution that's going to stop this. And I think it's sad to say that, from the beginning of time, humans have had murderous intentions. Whether you want to go back to Cain and Abel, if you believe in that sort of thing, murder is as.
But isn't the murder rate much lower in countries like Japan and England that do have gun control? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, but you definitely, it's not to say that gun control cannot mitigate the numbers, to bring the numbers down, but to suggest that in and of itself is going to solve the problem, I don't believe that. So yes, if we're looking to get the numbers down, I think there are an array of things that we need to do, gun control being a part of that. But even in the midst of all of that, it's not like those countries have a zero murder rate, right? People are still going to find a way with those types of illnesses and intents. They're going to find a way to get it off, unfortunately.
Saban writes, it's not the gun or knives, it's the people. I disagree with that completely. What do you guys think?
I think that if guns were more readily available to people with safety, not to say readily, but if people were able to get guns legally with special classes and more knowledge on the guns, people who would want to have guns and who would carry guns illegally would have a better knowledge of using it. Thomas Massey, he passed this law not too long ago that would allow people whose names who appear on the do not, like if you have a common name, and it affects Black people the most. If you have like Johnson's your last, like Phil, let's say if your name is Phil Johnson and someone is on the do not sell a gun to list with the same name, you can get denied. So, and it affects the Black community a whole lot more. And I said all that to say, if we're talking about gun control, that's somewhere we can start by people who are going to get guns anyway. Black people, we're talking about gun violence and it affects the Black community the most. We're going to get guns. So if we promoted and allowed people to get license for guns and promoted for what the NRA was made for, is to help protect Black people's rights to carry arms and teach and give educational classes, I think that could be something that could curb. But there's still, like Kevin said, that people are still going to have the appetite. The people who have the appetite for murder are still going to have that appetite for murder. And when you get people together and you get alcohol and egos, it's just something that happens in our culture. And there's no explanation for it. I've tried to offer up a solution, but there is no explanation in my opinion.
And Nathan, I would add this is that, to that point, and I've said this many times on this show, that everybody's a law-abiding citizen until they're not, right? The reality is, I mean, think about like one of the recent shootings that we had, on Fountain Square, which is a domestic dispute. Two guys getting into it over a girl. Like, if you don't have, like, you can be a perfectly normal person who gets caught up in the heat of a moment or a passion or may make a bad decision, and you just so happen to have a gun that you might even have legally, and you pull it on somebody and fire it because they slept with your wife or they did something like that, and the next thing you know, you're on that list of criminals who've done something. So I just use that as a point to say, and we see this all the time about quote unquote normal people who get caught up in the heat of passion and wind up doing horrible things. And I think that as long as people can, whether it's illegally or legally, obtain access to weapons, those weapons always have the potential of killing someone. And so unless you're just going to take away all weapons, knives, guns, I mean, it really is not anything that you can like fully eradicate. Can you reduce it? For sure. But it is an issue. I do agree that it is an issue more with the people than it is with the devices. But I would say it's a lot harder to choke out 12 people than it is to fire a gun and get 12 people, right? Like you try to choke out somebody, mostly somebody gonna jump on you. That person might be able to fight you off. Like it's hard to kill somebody with your bare hands, right? But weapons, you stab somebody right, they out. You shoot somebody in the right place, they gone. So the weapons make it certainly easier to do. But the impulse to kill is something that you can't legislate. I don't think that's a huge.
I actually slightly disagree with Kevin about that impulse to kill thing. I'll tell you why. I don't understand why, if we license a person to drive because they are in possession of a deadly weapon, I don't understand why we don't license somebody to have a gun. I don't see the difference. And they always say, "Oh, if you outlaw gun, if you have gun control, only criminals will have guns." Well, actually, here's the interesting thing. If you have, I believe, I think you'd probably agree, many of these mass shootings and many of these situations where somebody just gets so angry, it's a spontaneous desire. It isn't usually something they planned out 2 weeks before or 3 weeks, whatever it is. And so I believe if I'm right about that, and if you require people to get a license, which involves writing a check and taking a few steps and waiting a week or two, I think what that will do is significantly prevent those shootings, whether mass shootings or domestic, where somebody just gets so heated up and they grab the gun. In other words, they would have to have some forethought for a couple of weeks. So I think I certainly agree with Kevin that if somebody wants to kill somebody and they're willing to take the time and all that, sure. But I'd also say that if we have people register like we do, I think it'd be a hell of a lot easier also to track the people down and charge them who commit the crimes with guns.
But that does assume, again, look, here's the part that people don't. When you're going to talk about guns, you got to talk about this. There's legal and then there's illegal. And the reality is that you've got a whole bunch of illegal weapons that are being flooded into this country, more specifically into certain types of neighborhoods where certain types of people can get their hands on it. And it's not difficult in Cincinnati or anywhere, at least I'm told from people who get it, to get your hands on an illegal, unregistered weapon, right? So let alone we're talking about the loopholes at gun shows, and we're again, those who make the argument about gun laws would only affect legal gun abiding people. That is somewhat true because there's nothing being done to deal with the flood of illegal guns that come in, right? So people who, again, with murder scenes, or people who want to have a gun even and just circumvent the legal way of getting it can get their hands on a gun if they know the right people. And the reality of this is the gun lobby is complicit in all of it. The reality is that there's money in guns, illegal and legal guns. And that's why we have so many. That's why we have more guns in America than any other country. I mean, we've got enough guns in this country for every man, woman, and child in the United States, because guns are big business. Guns are money. The fear associated with guns and crime drive gun sales. And so we all know that that money, Wu-Tang Clan had it right. Cash rules everything around me. The dollar bill is what is perpetuating and keeping this phenomenon alive. Because if we put as much effort into getting illegal guns out of this country as we did illegal immigrants, you would dramatically impact crime, and these types of mass shootings. But you know why there's not as much emphasis on getting rid of guns, illegal guns, like quote unquote illegal immigrants? Money.
And like Furious Style says, they want us to kill ourselves. And they want us to kill ourselves.
What do you think?
That too.
Well, for me, I kind of agree with what Kevin was saying. I think people who want to do some harm to someone is going to do some harm. I don't know. It's just like you can put all the rules and regulations in place to stop things from happening, but someone who has the intent to do something, or like just the intent to rob, they're going to do it. They're going to find a loophole, some way to get their hands on guns. We can talk about, I think, there's ways to make it harder, like Phil was saying, make sure people get licenses. But those who want to commit the crime are not necessarily going to go get a license in the first place. So they're still gonna do it. I mean, that's just like those who, driving. There's so many people out there who drive without a license. So they want to drive. They're gonna commit the crime. And so I don't know how you stop that. I mean, you can put things in places to try to reduce it or make it harder for someone to get a gun. But I think they're gonna find it. I mean, there's so many out there on the streets right now. I think they're
well, Lakita, I think you'd agree. I'm not really disagreeing so much, but I think you'd agree that if we didn't require licenses for driving a car, we would have a much more chaotic situation out there as far as people dying in cars or hit by cars.
I definitely agree. I mean, taking a test, but what test are you going to have for them to get a gun? So
you could put that in. I mean, you can't just go. You can go and you can put those tests in place. I believe you can.
For me to get a concealed carry license, they've changed, I think, but I had to go through training to get it.
Like, how many hours does it feel? Is it 6 or 7 or 8 hours training that you have to? In Kentucky, you can get it within a day. You can go to a concealed carry class.
Actually, I may be wrong, Taris, but when I got my concealed carry license, I'm thinking 10 hours, but I could be wrong. But it's possible that the Republicans in the state Senate may have just totally gotten rid of that. I'm not sure, because that's kind of where the things were heading.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's like, the argument you made, Phil, I can't nobody can disagree with it. Like, if you got to get a license to drive a car, why not? It makes no sense whatsoever. Yeah, Darren, you can definitely call in. I put it in the chat a couple times. I'll put it in again real quick for you as I'm talking here. But
can I answer?
For me, I think that Saban. I disagree with Saban. It's both. It's the people. Guns don't pick up themselves and fire themselves. Knives don't just magically stab into people. It's the people behind it. This whole, people kill people, not guns argument was probably started by the folks, the NRA, because it sounds good to some people. Some people will go for that. But if you really think about it, no, it's the humans behind it. It's the humans. Like I said again, guns aren't just driving down the street in a car and shooting themselves. It's people that's doing it. I was thinking, man, I love one of the things that I hate, should I say, is when I drop a glass jar. I dropped one about 2 weeks ago. I mean, it's like glass goes everywhere. You think you clean it up, and then like 2 weeks later, you're moving something, you step on some glass.
Right.
I'm like, it's just like, I hate it because you can't possibly pick up all the little small pieces and big pieces. And I started thinking, there's a reason why, children's little sippy cups and little plates you give children that they're made out of plastic and not glass, is because we know they're probably going to drop it. Right. And that's the same thing when it comes with human beings and weapons. Like, somebody's going to do something stupid. Somebody's going to somebody wasn't raised right. Somebody's dealing with mental illness. Somebody was abused. Somebody doesn't understand conflict resolution, and they're going to break something and cause a lot of pain. And we just have to know who we are. We can't be trusted. We can't be trusted with this planet. We can't be trusted with our own drinking water to make sure that we all collectively agree on keeping that clean, let alone allow human beings out here to just get any weapon they want. Of course, it's going to be chaos. That's one thing. The other thing is, I don't know all the details about this shooting in Toledo, but again, this is Ohio. We are a pro Second Amendment concealed and carry state, because you might get into a situation where you have to defend yourself. That could be this situation. And if it is, that's the way that the powers that be want this state to operate. They want this state to operate where if you feel like your life is in jeopardy, you can use lethal force. And if there's people behind you, sorry about that, I'm standing my ground. That's where we live. So I don't understand how every time there's a situation, a shooting, people just get up in arms like, oh, I can't believe it. What do you mean? We're in Ohio. That's the law of the land. Because why do we get so weirded out and confused? This is senseless. No, it's not. The law of the land is I can defend myself if I feel like I need to. And if people get it, then they got it. So what? I'm defending myself. That's the law of the land. That's the ethos. That's what we believe in this state. So I don't understand how people get all upset. Oh, it's a shooting. What do you mean it's a shooting? I mean, of course it was a shooting. Of course it was a shooting.
Because I think, Nathan, that's not what I think that's not what the average person or what most people want. Like part of what frustrates me is we don't.
No, it is. It is, Kevin. Because if they didn't want it, they would vote on. They would vote on legislators.
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why, Nathan. Let me tell you why.
If it wasn't what they wanted, Kevin, they wouldn't vote on legislators that created that environment.
No,
all them people in Columbus were voted on.
I'm going to tell you why it happens. It's not what people want, but it's what they choose because of the narrative that's painted by. You had it exactly right. It's not what the average person wants. It's what the powers that be want. And the powers that be are very good at shaping narratives and getting us to talk about serious issues unintelligently. You know, one of the things that frustrates me so much is that we don't have the ability to slow down and come out of our tribalism enough to have reasonable, nuanced, sensible conversations around the issues. We tend to adopt the narratives that the powers that be want us to adopt. And that's what we end up talking about, arguing about, and going over. And they're always on the extreme sides of the argument. Most rational people can sit down and have a reasonable conversation about, and probably reach a decent conclusion about what needs to be done to kind of create safer and better environments for us. But like I said, power brokers like the NRA and people who benefit directly, cash-wise, greed-wise, from creating fear, this sense of fear that you got to protect yourself, so you got to have a gun. That's money for them. They put money in the pockets of politicians through their campaign donations. And now these politicians, of course, are going to push for legislation, not that the legislator themselves write, but that the lobbyists for the NRA and all of these other people write, and then feed to them, and then they bring forward, whether that's at the State House or at the Congress in Washington. We as individual people gotta come out of our emotional arguments and put on our thinking caps and see the narratives that we're being fed and who behind it is benefiting by keeping us at each other's throats, arguing in unintelligent, non-nuanced ways instead of reaching conclusions, right?
Yeah, but that's not what we're doing here.
We get roped into these insane arguments about taking away everybody's guns when we know good and bad.
We're not having that conversation right now. We're not having that.
But that conversation, Nathan, we're not having that conversation right now. But that conversation always conveniently comes up whenever you talk about limiting access to certain types of weapons. That's a conversation becomes. So yeah, you're right.
You know why, Kevin? Because nobody really wants that. Like, people want to be safe, but they also want to be able to pull a pistol or pull a weapon and defend themselves if they need to.
I really don't. I really think they don't, because I really don't think the average person has it in their heart to kill somebody else.
That's not the point. That's not the point. The point is,
it takes a lot to pull a gun. It takes a lot to pull a gun.
We can agree on that, but the point still, we can agree it takes a lot, but the point still remains is that Our society in Ohio is the laws are a reflection and a will of the people. They voted for it. They voted for the leadership that created these circumstances where you can get yourself a gun, and they keep voting for it. So
see, Nathan, that's the simplistic argument. See, what you're doing right now,
all I'm saying is
the
this.
extreme, very simplistic argument that feeds into exactly.
I've made multiple arguments. That's just one. And so what I'm saying is since that's the reality of what Ohio is, stop this hypocritical fake outrage every time there's a shooting. This is what you wanted. This is what you wanted. You wanted a world where guns are as available legally as they are. You wanted a world where you can stand your ground and pull a weapon and shoot somebody and not go to jail. That is the environment that the majority of Ohioans that voted have voted for decades on. So all I'm saying is stop the fake outrage. Just say, hey, let's figure out what happened at the end of the day. Maybe it was self-defense before we get all outraged at every little shooting, because this is what the environment that you want.
And Janice asked about culture, and that's what Kevin, I think, is talking about. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but that's what I'm getting from what you're saying is there's a culture thing, and she wanted me to explain what I meant by culture. It would be, like Kevin was saying, we're not addressing certain things for I don't know what reason. I mentioned culture, but who other group of people has murder in their music, gun switches, talking about gun and shooting each other in their what we consume in our ears? And these are I mean, not on a level as our culture. So when and instead of like someone saying, "Oh, our culture, we have a problem with these gun stuff," and then somebody, "Why are you talking about black people in our culture?" and explain what you mean, like it's evident we have an issue in our culture with gun violence, and it's exacerbated with the music and the culture and the big homies.
Which culture you speaking? You talking about American culture or black culture?
I'm talking about the music that we listen to. The music that I'm black people.
You talking about black people?
Black people. The music we listen to. I don't think any other music genre like hip hop glorifies murder and gun culture.
That's not true.
On the radio, give me any country doesn't put it on the radio. Easily listen to that, but Hispanic music don't put murder, kill on the radio like black culture. It's definitely something that we should address.
Have you listened to the headbanger rock and roll stuff?
They're not talking about killing each other with switches and guns and having switches that go brrr. I mean, and I'm a part of it. I'm a part of it. I've been in the music industry for 30 years and I've watched it happen. I've produced, I've hit record on people talking about what I'm talking about. And it's the truth. So unless we can, I mean, I won't even go any further than that, but I'm just explaining when she said, I'm kind of taken back when I said black people as a culture have a problem with guns and getting some kickback on there. We do. You know, I'll just stop there.
Regina writes, "Stop it, Lord." I think she's talking about you, Terrace.
Well, here's what I'll say about what Terrace. Here's what I'll say about what Terrace said in a little bit in his defense, right? And this is again, I think we get to, so if we're talking to, and I think Nathan kind of tried to get at this, if we're talking about an American problem in general, which is violence, which black people did not originate, right? You can't just simply single it down to black culture as perpetuating violence. Now, what I would say if I was having a conversation specifically to black people and with a black audience, I would agree with what Terrace says, that there is too much glorification of violence in rap music. And I think that what started out as rappers expressing and storytelling what they were witnessing in their neighborhoods, like with NWA or Public Enemy or some other of the early hip hop groups, has morphed into, and I think a lot of that early music was misinterpreted in terms of what the crux of that messaging was. But I do think that it's undeniable that has morphed into what is some very unhealthy messaging that does get translated down to our young people in terms of how you resolve conflict and whatnot, that there are lyrics and things within the music, within the culture that are not productive. I don't know how anybody would disagree with that statement. And it doesn't necessarily have to be
I disagree with that statement.
It doesn't necessarily have to be, oh, well, white people do it in their music too. If I'm speaking specifically to my people about an issue that I am concerned about amongst our people, it don't matter what white folks are doing.
Yeah, you're dead wrong. But I love you though. But you're dead wrong.
Well, explain why, Nathan. I mean, don't just say that.
I'm going to explain it. That would be unfair. I don't want to be unfair. And Callie writes, Terrence, not terrorist. Terrence, you are biased. But you and Terrence are both wrong about hip hop. And
not saying that it's all of it, Nathan. Not saying
I'm
that
just gonna say, if you've been watching hip hop all these years and that's what you get from it,
that's not all I get.
You have missed it.
Brother, wait a minute. I'm gonna let you say what I'm gonna step out. But don't do this. This is what I'm talking about if we're gonna have intelligent conversation, let's have intelligent conversation.
Kevin,
nowhere in my commentary did I say that all of rap music is that. In fact, I went out of my way to talk about groups and how their music and their lyrics were misinterpreted early on. So don't sit up there and say that I said the entirety of rap music.
It sounds like we agree.
Is that I said there?
It sounds like we agree. What's the disagreement? It sounds like we agree.
You said I was dead wrong.
Yeah, you are dead wrong. Yeah, you was dead wrong with your mischaracterization of hip hop by trying to cherry pick and talk about what you think is violence. That hip hop is way bigger than just that. That's just one little part of it. But I get it. That's what we typically do to black folks. Just like we do to black women in leadership. We overly criticize them, set up unrealistic expectations, and then when they can't live up to it, it's their fault. I've seen it over and over and over again. So,
This is why we continue to see the same things perpetuated, because we're disingenuous in our own community.
Oh, that's why. It's not because
that type of move right there, Nathan. That type of move right there is endemic, and why black people look around and be like, "Man, why are we dealing with some of the same stuff that we always dealing with?" It's because on some level we always have this don't want to talk about it, deflecting instead of confronting the challenges head on. And again, nobody is villainizing all of rap music, but
it's not
if you will sit there and tell me that there are not unhealthy elements that are influencing our young people in negative ways,
in this country, absolutely. In this country, if you talk about American culture, absolutely. But what we're not going to do, but what I'm going to resist, should I say, is this notion that somehow black people are especially violent and
who said I'm that? Not doing that. Like that's the problem. Like people make
that's the problem.
People make that leap. Like nobody is saying that black people are especially violent.
You kind of made it seem like that. You and Terrence did.
No, we didn't. You know what I hate, Nathan? I hate, and people do this all the time. Don't add on to what I say, right? Because if you have difficulty interpreting what I said, then I would appreciate you ask me saying, "Hey, this is what I thought I heard you say. Is that what I heard you say?" Versus saying this is what you said, because oftentimes what you spit back out is not what I said.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm glad you're here to set the record straight, bro.
Can I ask you a question? Do you think one of the like to say the perpetrator of a shooting, if they're listening to Kirk Franklin's Stomp on the way to a party, or if they're listening to some drill music on the way to a party, where is their mind state going to be?
It makes no difference. Makes no difference whatsoever.
One may to some murder music on your way to a party, and some stuff pops off. Fate come by hearing, you're going to react different than if you're listening to some calm music.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong about that particular point, Terrace. All I'm saying is, in my mind, and I could be wrong about this, is that if somebody decides they're about to do something terrible with a gun, that says more about everything. That says more about what happened to them since birth to that point than what they listened to on the radio. That's irrelevant.
Okay.
What's more relevant is what environment did they grow up in? Mom, dad involvement, mental illness, abuse, their own issues. That's what the real issue is. All the stuff that comes before somebody decides that, I'm gonna do what I gotta do. And again, we don't know. This could just be self-defense. Could be a righteous self-defense, but no, I'm not gonna blame the music, because anybody that's that susceptible, their problem isn't the music. Anybody that's that susceptible, the music made me did it. The problem isn't the music. It's whatever happened before they start listening to that song.
But it's okay, so here's what I was saying.
What we can do to curve what can we do to curve is, I thought that was a question. And that's my rebuttal, is we could do root causes. Music could be a root cause to where we could curve.
No,
music is not a root cause.
Nathan is 100% on point with what he just said, but I'm going to add on to why what we're saying is relevant to what he just said, because it all goes hand in hand. I agree with you. How you were raised, the environment you come up in, definitely has the most significant impact on how you're shaped. But people who do not have those strong supports are more susceptible to the media that they consume.
That's what I just said, Kevin.
I agree with. I said I agree with you that I think that and look at who's out perpetrating a vast majority of the violence and crime. A lot of these are kids, young men who don't have the support, the strong structure of a family, and who can be influenced by the culture that they see. I tell you, even in the church that I pastor with young people who even come from well put together environments, they are extremely influenced by this reality TV that they see on TV. Whether it's women acting as what they call them, baddies or whatever they is, or whatever that is. Like, you got a lot of young girls who see that and try to emulate that because they're young, they're immature. They see what they see on TV, particularly when adults are doing that, and they see it and they try to emulate it because even well put together.
That's not the media's fault. That's mom and dad's fault. That's not the media's fault.
I'm not saying that nobody is saying that it's anybody's fault. It's saying what the influences can be.
Right.
And if they're healthier influence, like, look, man, I mean, you just gotta say that if you got some people on a rap song and not saying that this is the majority, but glorifying settling your differences by getting people hyped up and saying, hey, I'm gonna go out and handle it with this.
It means nothing.
Pistol.
It means if you got
a young, immature person listening to that may act on that.
It means nothing.
I have to agree. I do believe music, and I'm saying this because I have a 9-year-old, and I do believe music do have some influence because some of the things that he said before, like he said, I'm like, where did you get that from? Like, we don't use that language here. I mean, honestly, in my car, we were listening to Kids Bop, and he goes to school and now he's saying different things, or he's acting a different way. Like, he called me, what did he said? He referred to me as, like, it was some slang that he used that he referred to me. And I'm like, I'm not your friend. I'm your parent. Like, I don't know where you get that from, but we don't say those words right here. It was more like, it wasn't like he didn't call me homeboy, but it was more like that. I can't remember what he had said, but I'm just like, I do believe music, it's not just music, but I do believe sometimes the factors in which where your kids are at does play a part in it.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I mean,
can I bring up one quick thing?
Go right ahead. Jump right in.
I just thought about this as we were talking. Do you remember in late 1900s, there was a horrible genocide in Rwanda? I think 800,000 people were killed. Do you know what caused that? It was these two groups, the Houthis and the Tutsis, and blah. I mean, obviously, there probably were long-standing grievances, but there hadn't been any killing or anything. But the people who ran the country or took over the country went on the radio and constantly used all these terrible, racially hateful things toward the one group. Okay, constantly, and then they started encouraging them to get your machetes and chop their heads off and this and that. And that was what led to, now granted, again, there were no doubt longstanding prejudices, but that is the way that genocide occurred. And I just think, even though you're right, Nathan, it isn't music, it reminds me of a lot of sermons I've heard where they say what you take in is what you comes out. Absolutely. Just like Lakita was talking about her son.
Yeah.
And, if somebody, I don't care even if you're an adult, if you're constantly watching like sexually explicit stuff or porn or whatever, I mean, that impacts you. That does. And I think it's the same with violence. I personally, my son loves these movies, the Quentin Tarantino stuff. That's fine. But to
Anything you
me,
want to come? Are you trying to come
I don't,
clean about something, Phil? Something you've been dealing with or anything? Or
no, it's
all
just
right?
the opposite is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay. I want to make sure.
I try, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've never gone to, honestly, to a porn site, but I do try for myself. I don't like excessive violence in films or TV. I just don't like it. And, I think I remember my daughter when she was in high school wanted to go to some concert, some rap concert. Okay. That everybody loved this group. So I said, well, give me the group. And I played it, and it was the most grossest stuff that I could ever imagine. So I said, no, you're not going. She goes, well, I'll pay for it myself. No, you're not going. And I feel good about that.
I think that I can't disagree with it. What everybody say, I can't disagree with it. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. But what I'll say is that I think that if a kid, child, whoever got that strong family unit that's feeding that child and holding that child accountable, but also holding themselves accountable in front of that child, I don't care what song they listen to. I don't care what they say in a song. They're not going to do it. They're not going to do it.
I don't think that that's what we're saying. We just said it does play an influence. And so you're right. Like I'm not concerned about my son, because you're right. When I heard him, I nipped it in the bud. That's not what we do and we say. But let's be honest. We also know that doesn't happen in every household either. Everyone doesn't have that. And so therefore the music does play a part. And so, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Nate. That is definitely the case, but we don't have that across the board. That's why you have some of the things that we have.
Right. And so that's what I'm saying. If you get a child that's vulnerable because they don't have what they need, whether it be the music, whether it be some friends, whether it be the streets, whether it be pornography, whether it be whatever, they're going to be susceptible to be drawn into negativity. But the root issue is, and the most important thing is that soil that you bring them up in, I think. All I know is I listen to all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it kind of, some of it had my head in the wrong space, but I had parents and grandparents that I wanted that held me accountable, that I didn't want to disappoint, that was counting on me. And that way more than some rapper in Oakland talking about gang banging and all that. That didn't mean nothing to me, because I had people that had my back. So that's what I'm saying. I listened to all the stuff. Everything you can imagine, I listened to. I did it all. And I wasn't going to do it for real. I just listened to them talk about it.
And here's the thing, though. Here's the reality is we're all different, Nathan. That's you, right? And you responded in a different way, because I've seen kids who have the exact same thing that you just described that you had, but they make the choice to listen to those other voices. And it really is kind of an individual thing. Though, Kevin. Yeah, I'm just saying what it is. The reality is, what we talk about this all the time on this podcast. We're talking about music, but music is media. And we talk about the news media and the influence and all of these different things that we know shape not just kids' opinions, but adult opinions. How much have we talked about how the media and how we disagree with how they cover crime influences the way that some people feel and view Cincinnati? That shows you the power of that shows you the power of the message. So the medium is the message, as they say. So it is the message, the words that go out, that if you hear, to Phil's point, that if you hear it enough, it can rewire. It can rewire.
It's not going to rewire you. Because it's not going to rewire you.
Evidence that shows that
it's not going to rewire you. I mean, it's not going to rewire you, because
there have been numerous studies that have shown, since Phil talked about never going to a porn site, there are numerous studies that have been done that have shown, particularly in men who repeatedly watch pornographic material.
Now we're talking about pornography.
No, we're talking about media, Nathan.
Now, listen to him. Listen, Nathan. Listen to what he's saying, because there are significant studies about this, about pornography.
Y'all stretching the conversation to fit your viewpoint.
Pornography is the media too.
Now you're talking about pornography.
It's all messaging.
Let's get back to what we're saying here. We're talking about young people and the effect that, I guess, hip hop has on them. And I'm gonna tell you again, if young people are surrounded by older people that's on top of them, it ain't going down like that.
Okay.
You're going to be sneaking doing that. You're going to have to do it with your friends before you get home from school because you can't do it in my house. And it's more difficult to monitor in some ways because of these cell phones. But that when you got that kind of environment, yeah, you're going to make some mistakes. I'm not saying you're not going to get in trouble, but you're not going to go down that road all the way because you got pops, you got mom, you got granny, you got pawpaw, you got your uncles, and you ain't going down that way. I don't believe it. But we got Bay O Wolf. What's up, Bay O Wolf?
Hey, how you doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, couple things percolating.
Wait a minute. Who did you say this was?
Bay O Wolf.
What? So what's up? What we got different code names this show? What's going?
Let's go way back.
Isn't that a classic I read in English literature or something? Beowulf? That sounds familiar.
That's exactly what it is. Yes, it's one of the classics, as they call them.
And I'm one of the classics.
Gentleman, you're saying this gentleman is one of the classics.
In some ways, he is. Yes.
All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, Phil. Yeah, I'm the one who told you that you're kind of too old to have a teenager. But if I can use this quadruple entendre, you blasted me. I'm sorry. You got me. So we're just gonna leave it there. All right. Miss Cole, good talking to you. First time talking to you on the show. You came out talking that stuff. Very fiery presentation in support of the disrobed judge, Tracy Hunter. However, you were dead wrong. You were wrong. I'm sorry. That woman, I'm telling you, I don't care what nobody says. We ain't going to go through it again because it's so many years ago. All you have to do is look at her history and then stop at the North College Hill case. There's never been a better litmus test given to a person that was failed by her. It was like hand given to her.
What do you mean? What happened?
With those young black fellas attacked that young man, that man in North College Hill for their own admission for no reason at all. Hospitalized. Okay. He ended up dying, but not as a result of the attack and the thing. And I believe the result, the report she gave, the punishment she gave them was a book report, something really like minuscule. For this type of level of attack from 13s and 15-year-olds.
What would you have liked to have seen these young men do?
Those boys needed man hours. Black boys need strict. Listen, black boys especially need strict punishment and handsome rewards. That was the case where she needed a strict punishment. There can't be an in between with black boys.
It sounds like it was a handsome reward. So she gave him what you said she should.
No, that wasn't no damn reward. They deserved a punishment. They deserved a punishment. Yes, have handsome reward for positive behavior.
They had to go to court.
You're trying to do the word salad thing, Nathan. It's not gonna work today. It's not gonna work. That woman, she was given a litmus test in front of the world and failed it.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. Did any of those young men? How many were there? 4 or 5?
If I remember, there were 3.
3 of them. Okay. Did any of them reoffend?
We don't know. We don't know because their names have never been released.
Okay.
Because they were juveniles.
Okay. I thought that their images was all over the place and their names was everywhere, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember that part of it, but
my question is, if they haven't reoffended and they've moved on and now they're adults and they've been living productive lives.
Well, yeah, you're making this up. Well, you're making this up.
Can I finish, Uncle Phil, please? Can I finish, Uncle Phil?
You're making it up.
I'm just saying. It's not hypothetical. It's more just like it's more like logical thinking. Like, we know that this happened. So to me, a logical question is, before we judge what Tracy Hunter did these young men reoffend? If they didn't, if they turned their lives around, then she did the right thing.
Juvenile records are not made public, so nobody knows.
Okay, so nobody knows, so let's not assume.
Do white boys need
nobody's assuming. The fact is, had that been my relative got attacked like that, I'd be pissed.
And you have right to be.
Pamela Kenny said, "Do white boys need man hours?" Fame. Do white boys need?
Who said that?
Pamela Kenny.
See, that's one of those old black people always attacking me. That's why that's one thing. That's the second worst thing in the black community. The older people are disrespectful and just outrageous. That woman has no reason to attack me like that. She knows damn well. She knows damn well I'm about equality.
Hey, Fame, let me stop you, brother. Now, about 2 or 3 shows ago, we said that old people had a right to disrespect whoever they want, that they've earned.
I ain't never said that, Kevin. That's a damn lie. I ain't never said that.
No, I didn't say you said that. I said that's the consensus on this show. That if you're older, you have earned the right to disrespect anybody younger than you and talk however you want. So, Fame, you need to fall in line and recognize that these old people that's attacking you, they've earned that right.
That woman's like 65 years old, worried about me. I ain't even 50 yet.
I want to know. What. I mean, I might agree with you. And so, do black boys need some kind of different discipline than white boys do?
Yes, because you're stepping into a different world than a white child will. You definitely need some type of a different discipline.
No, you just. It's not the discipline and punishment. Man, what is wrong with you, man? Who raised you, Fame? Was you raised by a caveman?
I was raised in a single home by a single mom, just like you.
Yeah, that's bad cultural thinking right there, Fame. That's the same kind of thinking that says they have doctors saying that black people have a higher threshold for pain tolerance than white people. That's just to suggest that black boys need a different type or harsher discipline than white kids need. Now, I can agree with you that there's a different type of teaching, but teaching is different than discipline.
Let me tell you why you should agree with me. Because the most notable school psychologist in the country, whether what you think about him or not, when he talks about schools, he's money. He says the same thing. Yes, I'm about to say his name. Dr. Umar. Yes, Dr. Umar says the same thing. Black boys need strict punishments and handsome rewards for good behavior.
Where did Dr. Umar?
Now we got a school psychologist with his proven credentials. He ain't Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. He's got proven credentials.
Will you leave that woman alone?
We know his work.
As a grifter and an opportunist. I mean, I'm not hating on Dr. Umar. I heard he got his school open, and I hopefully he does very successful things. But to name it Frederick Douglass Murphy, and Frederick Douglass was married to a white woman, and he's talking about no white. There's so many contradictions in Dr. Umar.
Frederick Douglass was married to a white woman 200 years ago. You're married to one now.
And
it's got nothing to do with anything.
I know. What does that have to do with anything?
What are you talking about?
Dr. Umar's name of his school is the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey School, and Frederick, and his moniker and his mantra.
Man, you about to mess up the feng shui. This is wild. Go ahead.
White devils, black queens forever, white devils never. But the same person who has his school is named after someone who was married and fell in love with a white person. So it just doesn't make sense to me.
He doesn't? Okay, so he says some things that may offend your wife. But when he talks about black boys and where they're treated in school, is he spitting money or is he just talking spitting Dixie?
If someone who has 5 successful sons, I
asked you a question. Answer the question, man.
Is
he spitting truth when he's talking about how black boys are treated in school? Is he speaking truth or is he just whistling Dixie? It's a yes or no question, brother.
Subjective.
Oh my God. Okay, let's move on. Let me move on, as the Black Lion likes to say. Brother, let's move on. Okay. Will, see, this is what I'm talking. This is Phil. I talked about you having a teenager. This is why you shouldn't allow him to, mess up your wonderful bloodline with this kind of tomfoolery that these people are coming out with. Terrence just, I don't know what he was trying to pull there. About Dr. Umar. Just say you don't like the guy,
Fame,
brother.
What is my? I got to know this. What's my son doing? Who's he hanging out with? I don't want my bloodline.
I'm talking about these people on this show.
He's talking about.
Yes, you did. I'm talking about this. I'm talking about this show. I'm talking about the people of this show and this audience.
Are you saying
they don't deserve him.
Contaminated by the people around me or something? Is that what
I think they have.
Thank you for that warning. I appreciate that warning. Thank you.
That Heimlich name is up there with Kennedy, Disney, Ford, Obama. You know what I'm saying? And you're going to trifle with your last name playing with these people.
them Heimlich buttons.
Oh my God. Man,
No,
Oh my God.
Where is the
but
disconnect
you know,
button?
just remember like this, Phil and Terrace, for you know, because y'all don't know me. Kevin know me a little bit. Miss Cole doesn't know me at all. Nathan know me a little bit. I'm the camera of Cincinnati. Kevin appreciate this. I'll blow up the negatives so people can see the bigger picture. You understand me? Hey, it's been real, y'all. I'm out.
All right.
Love
Oh
fame.
my gosh.
Great.
Love fame.
All right, so from fame to Trump, did y'all see any of the Knicks game last night? Donald Trump, our illustrious president, show your respect.
Where he got booed.
He did get booed,
But they
he's
love him
seen
in New York. They love him in New York.
he's seen to take it well though. Let me play this for you, and let's get patriotic for a second here. It's time for us to bring some patriotism back to this show.
To see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we held at the twilight's last gleaming, whose brush
Great voice.
stripes and bright stars through the perilous
Trump don't care, man.
You don't like no booze?
ramparts.
Trump don't care. He like, I'm here.
Oh,
You know
yeah,
what?
no
Hey,
hate.
if there wasn't no booze, it depends on what kind of ears you're listening from. I was listening from very subjective. That was like a cheers and booze at the same time. That was
It was.
booze.
To be
Probably
fair, it was
mixed with
cheers and
that.
booze at the same time. That's what I saw, but yeah.
Okay.
You know what? But Trump will still walk out of that, and you went ask everybody loved me. You know, it was wonderful. You know, I feel sorry for the brother who was doing the national anthem, because if he didn't know that the reason why people was booing was that they put the camera shot on the president, you know, maybe they thought he was like what was the track brother that messed up the national anthem? Lewis.
Carl Lewis.
he might have thought the people was booing him. But you're right, he did do a very nice job with the anthem.
A very nice job. And just think about him. Like, this is his big night, I'm sure. I'm not sure who he is. And Trump is there. And it's like, it changes the energy. If it brings politics in it. For folks who don't know, our president was invited by the Knicks owners. I understand they have a long time history. And I get it. You know, there's a reason why other presidents haven't done that. Because it inconveniences all the people there. It costs $2-3 million for taxpayers for the extra security. And that's why other presidents haven't done it. But, you know, I think it was a good look for Trump. I think, you know, mission accomplished. He got what he wanted. You know, Trump loves to be on the stage. That's the big stage right now, New York, his home city. So I get it. I get it. Should we expect the athletes to boycott Trump?
Why would they? Why would they? Why would they do that?
Because they don't like his politics and what he stands for, maybe.
What do you mean by boycott? The athletes boycott?
I'm not playing in game number 3. Why this man is here.
So
no, why should I? Look, man, if you play your entire career to make it to the NBA finals and you get that moment, I'm not letting anybody take that away from me. Not President Trump, not anybody else, because it's not about him. Like, that's the whole thing about him making the decision to show up there. It's just more evidence of his egomaniacal tendencies, that it's always got to be about him. It's not good enough that this guy sucks up all of the oxygen in the room, dominates every news cycle with his foolery every day, that he has to come in and take a seminal moment away from the city of New York, all of those Knicks fans, the players, everybody from the players to that brother who sang the national anthem, right? He took all of that away from them for his own selfish desires to be there. And I blame the Knicks owner too, because he was out of line for doing that. He was out of line for not thinking about the fans and the people of New York who have waited all this time for this moment. And I mean, it's a suck up move to Trump. Like, that's what that was. It didn't have anything to do with the base, didn't have anything to do with your players and your organization. It was him sucking up to Trump, and Trump doing what Trump does, which is basically, I think he the reason the Knicks lost. They ain't gonna say the Knicks didn't play well. I believe it was his bad energy and karma that infected the building that caused them to lose that game last night.
Oh my gosh.
And so I just feel like it was a selfish move on Trump's part. And if I'm a player, no, I'm not boycotting, because this is supposed to be my moment. This is what I worked hard for. Knicks had a chance to go up 3-0, win a championship. I'm not letting anybody take that away from me.
Right, I'm gonna play my game. This is what I get. I'm gonna still do my job.
Right.
I'm not gonna let.
Right.
What about if a player was ecstatic and happy that Trump was there, and he's a Republican, and he's like, okay, yeah, and just like the guy who spoke out at his rally, and you tried to demonize and villainize that football player, just because you guys, the football player who introduced Trump at a rally, and then you got
Jackson Dart, New York.
Yeah, because he's a Trump. How many people you guys are speaking as if everybody in Madison Square Gardens was has Trump deranged syndrome like you guys? There's probably people there that were ecstatic that Trump was in the building. They can say, I was at game 3 of the Knicks and Trump was there, and they're happy that happened. I don't get this, man. I don't understand.
Man, listen, y'all. Number one, y'all. Man, MAGA confuses me, because on one hand it's like, big buff macho guys, but y'all just be melting over the smallest thing. So if somebody says I disagree with your politics, that means I'm demonizing you. Like Jackson Dart, if you know anything about him, he's got a brother sort of vibe around him. Like, he's been trading off of that.
Let me just throw something in. Jimmy Kimmel said Trump was rooting for the Spurs because they kept him out of Vietnam.
That's hilarious.
That was good. Phil,
good. That was worthy of interruption. That was worthy of interruption. Good one. So, I'm trying to remember where I was. You did it, Phil. You got me off.
What you were saying wasn't important. Don't worry about it.
What I was saying wasn't important. So it is what it is. It'll come back to me or it won't. Thank you so much.
Because I've been waiting patiently so we can talk about Trump walking out of that interview.
Okay, well, here it is. Let me pull it up for you then. Trump had a back and forth with Kristen Welker, who I must admit I am not happy with the way that she conducts herself during the Trump administration. She gives way too much leeway to the current administration. We need reporters that's going to push back. But in this case, people are giving her a lot of props, and I give her props. I don't really think she did anything that was that fantastic. It was pretty simple to me. She rebutted. Trump said something, she pushed back. But here we are in a world where he gets so little pushback from so much of the media these days that it seems like it's a big deal. But here's what happened. Let me get it for you. Let me see here and check this out.
I think it's appropriate that they have an election and 5 days later they're nowhere close to picking a winner.
State and local officials acknowledge they are slow. They're urging.
No, they're crooked.
We're talking about the race in California.
That's how they vote in
crooked,
California.
just like you're crooked. Your press is crooked, and Meet the Press is crooked.
To be fair, I'm not crooked, but let's
really.
Let's
well,
continue.
You play right into their hands.
Let's continue.
You're either crooked or you're stupid. You play right into their hands.
Yeah, I see why she get props, Nathan.
You're either crooked or you're stupid. Like,
yes.
She's asking him. I thought that the questions were fair and very basic. Okay, sir, you're the president. If you're telling us that you think that there's some election fraud, then just produce the evidence. That's it. Like, it's just facts over feelings. You know what I'm saying? You might feel that way, Mr. President, but if you show me the facts, I can read them for myself, double, triple, quadruple check. And if it's okay, it's okay. Okay, there's election fraud. But it was quite interesting. That's just a small piece of it.
That's him. That's how he is. That's him. That's what we
accept.
Especially with women.
Exactly.
I mean, you're stupid? Who uses that kind of language?
Him.
Right?
Here's the thing, though. Nothing in this interview was new, right? And it's like our reaction to it is we respond and we react to it like we don't know, this isn't who this guy is. We react to this like we don't know how he treats reporters in general, but particularly female reporters. We act like this is the first time we've heard him tell this election lie thing. And it's like we get so juiced up over this stuff and it's nothing new. And I get it. It's infuriating. It's like, how many times can you sit here and act this dude? What the outrage is really over is how many people continue to excuse this type of lunatic behavior from this guy. It's not what he says. It's not what he does. It's just simply how many people will still try to cape for and defend this kind of action instead of calling it out what it actually was. I agree with you. Kristen Welker didn't do anything extraordinary as a reporter or interviewer in this case, other than not haul off and knock the hell out of him for calling her corrupt and stupid, which is what I might have likely been able to do and been out of job the next day.
Kevin, you would have wanted to, but you would have held your ground. I think if you was in that situation, you would have did the same thing she did. I'm telling you,
if he would have held your ground. If he had said you're either, I tell you what, I wouldn't have assaulted.
You would have addressed it.
I definitely would have responded much more harshly to that.
Kevin, they don't know the Kevin I know. Sure. They don't know this Kevin.
I give her much respect and props for staying professional in that moment, because I have to be honest that I don't know that I could have. I like to believe that I could have, but just even hearing him say that to her sent something through me in the moment that I'm not quite sure how I would have responded to him in that I would have responded to him in that moment if I'd have been interviewing him. But that's the thing that's infuriating with Trump, is none of this is new. None of this is stuff we haven't heard before. It's the same thing I say over and over again. If you are a supporter of Donald Trump and you look at that and you feel like that was a win for him or for you or what you stand for, then that's a sad indictment on where you are.
Yeah, I like to go right there, because it's a great segue to, because Kevin just said, I want to repeat that. If someone supports that actions from Donald Trump, it's a sad representation of where you're at. Like, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. It's a sad representation of what?
Can you hear him, Kevin?
I just said it's kind of a sad representation of where they are, mentally, emotionally, intellectually. I think all of that is true.
Or, no offense, I'm not getting on your territory. If you voted for him,
cool, all that. What if she is corrupt and Trump knows she's corrupt, and that's why she did not say anything back, because to get to where she's at and to be in that, let me hear me out. To be in that interview spot in Wisconsin when it was raining for an hour and she kept asking Trump certain questions. And if you guys would just listen to Trump in this particular moment, because I was far off of Trump. I was so mad at Donald Trump until after I saw this interview. Donald Trump just told a lot of reasons besides immigration, why Donald Trump won the election, and the people on the middle right, middle left, is because he was telling the truth about election fraud. Donald Trump is telling the truth about election fraud because right now he's actively participating in manipulating the systems to make sure he gets people in the position that he wants to by using the exact same voter fraud tactics that he's accusing them of. So when he's saying, I'm telling you these elections are rigged, because I'm rigging the elections. So if you aren't believing me when I'm telling you that I'm rigging these elections and these elections are rigged, then you must be either corrupt and on the take, or you're not listening and you're not comprehending what I'm telling you. Because I believe that Donald Trump is a part of, he's stealing elections right now. The primary. It's impossible for Ed Galleron to get as many votes as he possibly did in this primary election. It's impossible. So if he's using the exact same methods that he used to get to, like absolutely, Thomas Massey, the exact same methods that he used to primary all these people who he's saying, and he's using this same mail-in voter things, and he's saying, hey, I'm cheating because I was cheated, so I'm using, it ain't no fun when the rabbit is. So that's why I was like, Trump at least, and then he got up and he walked out. He's like, if you're going to waste my time, You're going to waste my time. And I'm telling you that this stuff is rigged, and you know it's rigged, and I know it's rigged, and you're going to keep messing with me?
Terrence,
so
here's
you're
the
going to
problem.
continue to say that his behavior, his actions, I mean, I have to get off. I explain that to you, but I just don't understand how you defending his words and his actions. I mean, you said that she didn't say anything.
He's telling the truth.
He did say that she's not corrupt, regardless of how he feel about the issue. But to call her that and call her stupid and say that she's corrupt and all this stuff because she doesn't agree with him, that's if somebody's telling you the truth and you're not listening to the truth that you're telling, if he's telling you,
wait a minute, Terrence, let me stop you right there. Donald Trump does not have the truth in him, and this is the thing that I can't understand about people who support him. Donald Trump lies over and over again. So my point is I could see if somebody told a handful of lies. For most people, it only takes somebody to tell you a handful of lies before you consider them pathological. Donald Trump has told tens of thousands of lies, yet his people still believe what he says. The man has produced no evidence, Terrence. So tell me, in 60 some odd court cases that he took before many judges that his administration appointed, he lost all but one of those cases. So if there was actual, and this is the part where I say, like, people who subscribe to conspiracy theories, I can't even talk to you because I'm somebody who deals in facts and evidence. You ain't gonna just tell me anything. And too many people will let people tell them anything with absolutely no evidence or no facts to be produced. Donald Trump tells you the election was rigged, but he can't tell you how it was rigged. Okay, so what the hell kind of sense does that make? You gonna tell me it's rigged, but you can't tell me how it was done? You just sat up here and said there's no way that Ed Galrine could have got the number of votes that he got in Kentucky. Terrence, please give me the source of information that you're coming with that, because people do that all the time. They spit
Kentucky. There's no way that you would have gotten those. That's what Trump was saying to that lady too about California. There's no reason.
Where do you get where are your facts, Terrence? What's your source?
He said the Georgia governor, he said, just find me these votes. I know you can find
Terrence, tell me you just made a statement like it was fact. No way Ed Galrine could get the number of votes in Kentucky that he got. Please enlighten our audience. What source of information? Where are you getting that from? And how do you know that?
Okay, if you look at the Secretary of State website in the Commonwealth of Kentucky and you look at election results, Ed Galrine got, I think it was 275,000 votes in a primary in the Commonwealth of Kentucky where there was only 31% voter turnout. In the general election, Donald Trump didn't even get that same amount of votes in the general election of the 2020. So I'm not saying any, I'm using my brain and I'm looking at numbers from the Secretary of State's website and I'm saying these numbers don't match up. How can Ed Galrine get all these votes from against Thomas Massey, who got there was more votes for that particular race than all votes casted in the general election in 2024. That's where I come up with my numbers, Kevin. That's where.
So again, Terrence, that's just bad deductive reasoning that doesn't take into. Oh my God!
Bad deductive reasoning.
That doesn't take into a lot of other accounts. How much money, Terrence? How much money was spent on that election? Historic amounts of money to get people out to vote. This is the other part that people who just don't use their brains. So, for example, if you're manufacturing, right, it would be, this is easy enough to check. This is why people who posit and put forth these theories just don't, it's easy enough to check. If you're manufacturing mail-in ballots for people who don't exist, don't you think that would be pretty easy to check? Don't you think Thomas Massey, as his opponent, would be all over that? So why are you so you're more angry about it? You're more angry about it than Thomas Massey, who lost. Don't you think if what you were saying was true, Terrence, that Thomas Massey would have a legion of attorneys counting votes and doing all the things that Donald Trump did after he lost and came up empty? Don't you think Thomas Massey would be doing that? Since it makes such common sense to you in your brain, what you just laid out, why stop thinking just where you want to get off the train?
So why would you do that and spend all that money defending that? It would take you 2 years in litigation to do that when you just
why did Donald Trump do it?
2028.
Why did Donald Trump do it?
Kevin, you're asking me questions. I'm giving you simple, easy answers. Right? These are like softballs. You're giving me softballs. Why wouldn't he go through litigation, which would take years and years and years?
Why did Donald Trump go through years and years?
Take that same energy and rerun in 2028 and take that money and all that litigation. He's not going to win.
So Terrence, what you're telling me is, what you're telling me is that Thomas Massey, the independent representative of the country that should have been elected, is okay with letting voter fraud go unchallenged. That's what because he's trying to save a buck so he can run in 2028. This is what you want me to believe. This stalwart of Kentucky, this paragon of independence and standing up against corruption and all of this stuff is just going to let corruption slide because he doesn't want to spend money and spend 2 years in civil litigation. See, if you're going to talk about thinking and using your brain, then don't just shut your brain off when it becomes inconvenient.
Guys, I got to jump off. Can I say one thing quick? I heard this on a podcast, but I think it's worth thinking about. The thing that got my attention about him in that interview was, first of all, his behavior was so childish and so downright crazy. I heard somebody on a podcast say, think about it. This guy has the nuclear codes. This petulant child, he can fire an atomic weapon. And I think about what happens, because it looks like in Iran's just got him by the you-know-whats, and he's got no way out. I just wonder, if a guy who could act like this, does he try to maybe use a tactical nuclear weapon or something? Because it seems to me that a guy that is as crazy, forget the right and wrong, liberal, conservative, just downright crazy. Do we feel safe that this guy has the nuclear codes?
I mean, no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. I mean, you just don't know. You don't know what Trump is capable of or what he might do in desperation. And I think,
because he doesn't want to lose. He can't lose. We know that.
Yeah.
Hey, Phil, real quick before you go, man, what's your take on Saban going to Congress and trying to, I guess, do away with NIL and the portal?
No, he's not trying to do away with it, but he's trying to put some reasonable limitations on. I mean, I would have put tougher limitations myself. And normally, I do not believe in the federal government jumping in and getting involved in this stuff. But keep something in mind. NFL and Major League Baseball, they have an antitrust exemption, okay? They have an exemption. They have the ability to get together and form rules for all the teams. Congress has given that to them. Okay. And all what these guys are saying is we need that here. Because I mean, even putting aside the argument Kevin and I have about paying these guys and all this, I mean, it's such chaos. These guys can jump back and forth from one year to the other. There's no limits, and there's no limits whatsoever in pro sports. They have spending limits, and the reason they can do that is because of the antitrust exemption. So that's what they're asking for here. I don't even get why they're giving them 5 years. I thought college sports must be 4 years, but I'd make it even tougher. But the point being, they're trying to put some reasonable restrictions on. So I definitely support some version of it.
You were so outside of your principles as a Republican, man, and all the things you said on this.
Well, not all the things. No, I just
completely
said,
outside of what.
This is one of those things where I agree. I go against the Republican limited government thing, and there's some others too I could talk about.
So Kevin was right. You are a rhino. You're not really a Republican.
Yeah, right. He's right.
Republican in name only, because I mean, no Republican should ever like what they're proposing, because that's against the free market. It's the federal government coming in. It's the exact opposite of everything Republicans have always stood upon.
Well, actually,
those are the days we live in.
before you start talking about Republicans have stood for, look at what Republicans have acted for. Okay, we're supposed to be the fiscal responsible ones. Well, guess what? The biggest deficits have occurred when Republicans were president. Okay, so all those people say that are complete phonies. All right, and I've gone through other things where tariffs. We're supposed to be free trade. Okay, and yet all these guys are going along with Trump on this. But yeah, let me put it this way. If you don't agree with what they're saying, then you also should disagree with the antitrust exemptions for the NFL and Major League Baseball and everything else, and they just go wild. Okay, so I think this is a situation where I do justify. It doesn't the federal government has to set the rules. Frankly, what I think they ought to do is just give the antitrust exemption to the NCAA and let them play with it. That's what I would do.
Saban is a hypocrite. He made $100 million plus off of the muscle and the bone of primarily black players. He made millions. He is who he is today because of these young black bodies. And he got the nerve. They get 3 or 4 years where they can make their own decisions without somebody coming in and telling them what to do. And he has the nerve.
So do you think the same thing should apply to the pro sports leagues? Nathan,
he had the nerve, Phil.
Should it apply to the pro sports league as well? In other words, the leagues can't get together and set rules. They can't do it. You agree with that?
I'll answer your question. And let me finish this real quick. This man had the nerve to go to Congress to take that cachet that those black bodies created for him. He took all of that to Congress to betray the next generations of black bodies.
You've been spending too much time with Kevin. That's the problem.
I want you to hear all of this. That might dare to want to play college basketball or college football and make a decision about where they want to go.
They're going to make a ton of money still, even with this.
It was a complete betrayal.
To answer my question about the pro sports leagues, answer my question.
But to answer your question, what's the question again?
The question is, I explained that the reason the NFL and the Major League Baseball and NBA can set rules, like they set rules for everybody, okay, and the individual teams have to follow them, is because they have an exemption from antitrust laws, meaning that they have a right to set rules for everybody, okay?
So let me get this straight. You're okay with the destruction of the Department of Education, the Federal Department of Education.
Now we're on that.
You're pro that because in your opinion, the federal government shouldn't get involved with education, but yet you want the federal government to come in and tell these athletes.
Question yet about
you want the federal government. But you do think that it is the role of the federal government now to come into the personal lives of these athletes.
He does got you on that one.
Where they can go. Come on, man. It's hypocritical.
He got you on that one, Phil.
Answer my question. Do you believe they should remove the antitrust exemption?
That's not even the issue. That's not even the issue, Phil. The issue is
it's the same principle.
I need to study it more. I don't think it's relevant to what we're talking about. If you really want a solid answer, that's the best I can give you without going in a direction that if I get some future information, I might disagree with. So that's what I can say. But here's what I can say, Phil. I am against all of this. Limiting athletes from transferring to only one time without penalty. The federal government's going to tell athletes how many times they can try to get a better situation for themselves. This is madness. This is madness.
It is.
I got to go, guys, but we'll continue this. Got to go.
Sure. I just want to get it started, man. Take it easy, bro. Thanks for your time.
I'm sorry Phil won't be here to hear me say this because I know he would disagree with it and would be in his emotions about it. But
I'll let you have weight, okay?
So Nathan is 100% right about this. Everything that's in that is bogus and nothing that the federal government should be involved in. The NCAA, like any other sports organization or league, should be able to set their own rules and their own policies.
No, the NCAA can't do it because of antitrust. That's the whole point. They can't set rules anymore because There's no
now
antitrust exemption. That's the point.
So now basically you want to take advantages of.
I want the NCAA to have what all the pro sports league have.
No, you don't. That's not what you want. What you want is to be able to limit the mobility of college athletes.
You guys want no rules.
No, you're just trying to play the. No, stop it, Phil.
No rules for all the colleges.
Clearly, we're not saying that. Clearly, we're not saying that.
That is the result we have today.
Nobody
cares what the NCAA says.
That is not the result.
Rules. That's what I'm trying to say.
Here's what should happen. The way that things are, while I will agree, it may not be good for the long-term health of the NCAA, college football or basketball, at least with the generation, with this older generation of fans who are used to college sports being what it is, which I would count myself in that generation. That you lose something when, from a fan's perspective, when guys are here today and gone tomorrow. One of the things that works for most sports in general is that even in the NFL, guys sign to contracts for 4 or 5 years before they move on to free agency, or 2 or 3 years or whatever. So you at least know you're going to have a guy for a set number of time. There's no such thing like that in college sports pretty much anymore. Now, while I agree this is great for the players, that players should be able to have the same mobility that coaches have enjoyed in NCAA, and they should be able to make their money, particularly guys who may not achieve multi-million-dollar careers in the NFL. I think the life expectancy of most NFL players is like 3 to 5 years, and most of them don't get those big contracts or even that second contract. So I don't have a problem with the kid maximizing his talent, particularly when schools are raking in, tons of money based on the talent that they bring. And I've killed the whole, they get a college scholarship argument that used to be, they're getting this, $30,000 scholarship while the university is selling $2 or $3 million in jerseys of that particular player. That doesn't square. So while I agree with you, Phil, that the quality of the fan experience for these games has been impacted by that, that's undeniable. But what I will say is I don't know that the trade-off is worth denying these young men the opportunity to maximize their earning potential, just as coaches or anybody else can on the collegiate level.
I got to go, but I would suggest next time we talk about the antitrust exemption, because if you believe, let me say real quick, if you guys believe that these players should have the right to just go anywhere every year, whatever, then you need to say the same thing for the pro sports leagues. So it's just, I got to run.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Yep. And I think now that I understand what you're saying, I think I might agree with you. I think I might. Man, I got more guys, but we can keep going.
I look at it, look, there are a lot of differences that you can say between, college sports and the NFL. And Phil might not be entirely wrong about the antitrust thing. But the problem that I have with that is if the NCAA's intention is to create a list of rules like those what you have there, where they're going to be able to try to limit or somehow squelch the earning potential, of these young men, I don't necessarily know that I agree with that. And I can't remember who it was that said, well, NIL was just designed to put a couple of dollars in athletes' pockets, not give them life-changing money. And my question to that would be, why shouldn't they be able to get life-changing money? It's like these college coaches are getting life-changing money.
Absolutely.
Why should a college coach who ain't the one out there putting their bodies on the line, risking injury and all of that, why should those guys be able to get life-changing money, but not the athletes themselves? And just like any of us have mobility to be able to move from job to job. Look, you have the ability whether I'm employed at the Inquirer or Burger King or Kroger, if you get a better opportunity, leave. You ain't even got to give 2 weeks notice. 2 weeks notice is a courtesy, right? Before you bounce from a job and move to another one. That's a courtesy, not a requirement, right? So people in a free market people can move and up their earning potential and move to new jobs, period. And I get why you don't like it. I don't particularly like it as a college football or college basketball fan.
Really?
Do I think it's good for the sport from a fan perspective? Because you do like to know the guys who are on the team and you don't want to lose guys from year to year. I get that. But at the same time, I don't know that my feeling about that is enough to deny these kids opportunity.
Absolutely.
Just because it don't sit right with me,
right? You're gonna
do it.
You take money from these young guys, man. Please, they put a lot of work to get themselves to become a D1 athlete. That is not, or D2 athlete or D3. It takes a lot of work to get there, and it started at a young age for some of them. So if they can get a payout in college, why do I care?
And then especially,
I don't care if you get in fact, I'm happy you're getting a payoff because everybody's not going to go pro. Most of these athletes are never going to be at the pro level. So this might be a chance for them to rake in as much money as possible. And or I'm at West Virginia, they recruited me, but you brought somebody in as a freshman and you seem to be favoring him in practice. I got to look around, I'm trying to start. You know what I'm saying? I mean, why not? I read somewhere that like half of the people that go into the transfer portal, and I think these numbers were comprised across all the sports, male and female, or men and women's, about 45 to 50% of them don't get on the team. So that tells me that the market is doing what the market's supposed to do. You know what I'm saying? The cream going to rise to the top and the dust and the mud is going to slink to the bottom. And it's just the way it works. You know what I'm saying? If you get in the right situation and you pop and you stick, boom. And if you don't,
what about the parents too? The parents who spend time to take their kids to the AAU games and the travel football teams and all the money they spend on weekends out, hotel rooms and traveling and time off of work. That for to get your kid to go to Division I, it's going to take either you as a parent or someone taking some time out and loving your kid enough to sponsor him to get to these places because it's not cheap to get. I mean, and if you don't play on those circuits, you're not going. They're not going to. I don't know a player that will be a D1 recruit out of high school that has not played the AAU circuit. You 1 in a million. So that takes a lot off the parent. So if the parent can get there in college and then get some of that recouped or the relief from having to still be able to travel to watch your kid's game and say, hey man, well I ain't got to, when I go there, he's going to get $1,000, this or that. I mean, it makes a huge difference. And like people can, and I'll say this from experience, people can say that have the opinion on NIL and Division I scholarships, but until you experience it yourself, you don't know what you're going to do. And that's on parent.
Because you've been there, but Terrence, you've been there, right? I know you're about to say something, Kevin. Let me jump in real quick, bro.
Yeah, go ahead.
But I just want to follow with him and what he was talking about in real time in a moment. So your son is you've done it, right? You're talking from experience, right?
Yeah, I'm talking from experience, from taking my kids to traveling all over the country to watch them race, driving to New York to watch him false start, and then going to Nashville, Tennessee, North Carolina, ATA, all these different places to make sure that my son had the eyes on him to get the looks to get the Division I scholarship, and then him doing the work as well. And then he's got an NIL deal, and that's extra money for him while he's in college. And the more he races, the more he gets,
Your son has an NIL deal?
Yeah. It's nothing huge, but he's got T-shirts and merch and stuff like that you can go to websites and buy it, and he gets a percentage of that. And like he just signed with a club in Germany. He's going to Germany next month to run for the German. Like I've told you guys that before. Like his path, and it would have not been possible, and none of this would have been possible without NIL. And my son is different because he could go to the transfer portal. He could run. He could leave Western Kentucky right now and go to any college he wants to go into in the United States of America. D1, 5-star, any of them. But he chooses to stay where he's at because they're taking care of him. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, until your son is going through this thing and you have a college saying we're going to give your son 100% plus. And then you're gonna say, I don't agree with anything that's going on, man. I'd say somebody's going to humble yourself and just enjoy the ride, because I don't think at any other time in the history of life that the kids have had this much freedom. It's never been this. So like, I'm just sitting watching and saying, hey, young man, get your money, invest, be wise. You're getting this $1 million. Don't go out and buy a car. Put that away. You're 18. Put it away. You know what I'm saying? That's where I think that instead of monitoring the NILs and how the kids are getting the money, let's get these kids, especially these young black kids, financial literacy classes to where they're not going to be broke after their college, after they're going around from college to college.
So Nathan, one of the things, and Terrace kind of mentioned this, that let's not get it twisted, that part of the rejection is not just the competitive things and the things that I talked about kids transferring schools and the fandom and all of that, but there's also an element of how much money that we're talking about here. And just like when you talk about pro athletes, there's still a lot of people who have a problem with athletes who get paid large sums of money for playing what amounts to a kid's game, particularly if you somebody busting rocks or working on a factory line or, doing whatever it is that you're doing that you would consider to be a hard day's labor, and you're making a fraction of what some kid is making. In fact, a lot of these kids are making more money on NIL deals than their parents make, than the parents who put them through all of the things that Terrace talked about.
That's rare.
They may make more money in a season than their parents have seen in their entire working career.
Yeah, that's rare though. I mean, that's rare. That's like the top 1%.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about some of these. I'm talking about the because that's what people think about when they think about the top of the top. They're not thinking about the kid who's getting a $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 NIL deal. When you talk about this, people are talking. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about that top cream of the crop. Nobody has a problem with a kid getting $2,000, $3,000 in NIL or some smaller sum of money. Yeah. It's these high level athletes who are moving here and there and getting all of this money that people generally tend to have the most issue with. And we see this also in the NFL, where people have an issue, fans have an issue with players getting all of this money. And what I always say is if you got a problem with how much the players have, think about how much money the people at the top have to be raking in to be able to pay a LeBron James 50, 60, 70 million dollars, whatever these players are getting paid a year. Joe Burrow, $50 million a year. Think about what the Browns got to be raking in to pay Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins what they playing, and then the rest of the squad. They got to be making infinitely more money than that.
Well, billions. I mean, that's the difference between being a multimillionaire and being a multi-hundred-millionaire or a billionaire.
But here's what difference. But here's what people who would defend the Browns might say. Well, this is a business. They're running a business. This is what it is. This is what happened. But people don't think of athletes as they are their business. Their athletic skill and who they are is their brand. It is their business. It is their market. It is how they make their money. So in a weird way, my ability to throw a football, to catch a football, or run a football is no different than Mike Brown's ability to pool his money together and put together an organization that is then able to go out and make the billions that they make so that they can pay players like that. And the one thing that I will say that athletes typically tend to enjoy that the average worker doesn't is that they're able to leverage their skill and talent to get paid that is, I wouldn't say commensurate with what they help generate, but they're able to demand a certain amount of money based on the market that they play in that the average worker can't make. You and I, if we, like, for example, I work for a corporation. It's hard for me to go in unless, I'm somebody like Stephen A. Smith. I think people in TV, certain personalities have a little bit easier job of doing this, where they can say, hey, the ratings for this particular network or whatever are what they are based on my show and my personality and my brand. That's how Stephen A. Smith was able to get his $100 million contract. And he kind of tried to educate people by talking about that. And so when you have the ability to show that your work product is directly attributable to how much money the people at the top are able to make, you're able to demand more. It's much harder for people, the everyday working stiff, to make that argument, right? Like it's hard for you if you work on an assembly line at GE or at an automaker to say, because what I do on the assembly line makes the cars this much better, or the production this much greater because of me, therefore I need to make 120,000 a year. Like, that's a harder case, I think, for the average working stiff to make, where these athletes can kind of say, hey, you ain't winning without me. Joe Burrow can go to the Bengals and he can demand the highest paid salary among quarterbacks, because he can make the case that before I got here, y'all were trash, right? When I got here, we went to the Super Bowl. I'm gonna need that $500 million. You know, Patrick Mahomes the same way. So I think the dollars are one of the things that don't always sit well, I think, with people who generally have a problem. It's not just the competition. I think the dollars also rankle people's feathers a little bit.
Have you guys been watching Adrian Broner?
Yeah,
I've very own Adrian Broner.
I'm watching bits and pieces. I thought about that whenever I was thinking about people who get money and then kind of like lose. If he's getting the bag again, but is he going to keep it or is he going to spend it? I mean, is he going to
like? If people don't know, Adrian Broner had I used to watch it. He had his own little reality show. It wasn't little. It was like it was a nice production for the times. Like, it was cutting edge 10 years ago. I think it was called About Billions, AB, About Billions, Always Boxing, something like that. He used to play with his name and his acronym and give it different meanings. But anyway, he has been doing a live stream with this dude named Dean the Great. This might just be some younger folk stuff, but it keeps coming up on my timeline in the Cincinnati base. So I'm like, well, hey, let's talk about it. So let me see if I can pull this up a little bit. Let me see.
For a little context, streaming's huge.
Yeah, streaming is huge. And the success of this stream, and for folks who don't know, Dean the Great, I think he's an athlete, streamer. They seem to do a whole bunch of just regular stuff, parties, celebrities are kind of in and out. This is one of those formats that's really, really huge, whether you know it or not, which is where people are like streaming their days and their interactions. But he teamed up with Cincinnati's Adrian Broner, who it appears is still drinking, y'all. He's still drinking, and they just been getting into hijinks and just a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, this could be your. What up, bro? Anybody got gum? What's up, nigga? What up, bro? I mean, and this is pretty much what they do. It's like them hanging around with their friends, and then like a celebrity will come through and they'll do some hijinks. Sometimes, as you see right there, they'll have the same outfit on. Sometimes it's something that you might wear. Sometimes it's like an outfit or uniform. This is what people are watching. This is huge right now. I can't get away from it.
I mean, are you familiar with I Show Speed and how his streams are? And this is the next wave of, I think, that they've capitalized. I think he got a check for $1 million. Did you see that episode where the direct deposit his account and he's looking at it? He's like, and he gets geeked. I thought it was 100,000 or it might have been. It was 100,000. It hit his account and he was like, my account, it just hit. And they said, I told you, I got you. Yeah, because I think the producers was giving Dean $1 million to take care of everybody. And he was like, oh, mine. Where's mine at? Where's mine? So then the direct deposited his. I mean, this is where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. This is exactly where we're at to where Adrian Broner, I mean, like him or love him or don't like him, he is dominating pop culture in the Black community. What we were talking about earlier. Adrian Broner is trending. Adrian Broner and his buddy this is not Hot Mic, where you can get some good knowledge and some good feeding. You got Adrian Broner trending for our culture.
He is. And it's fascinating on sometimes they'll do a little something. Sometimes they do some stuff I think is sexist, misogynistic. I mean, I was looking at like, man, this is like the new rap music. Like these streams.
Kevin, they're going to pay people to degrade black culture. Just like with hip hop, when they started giving St. Ides and Code 45 were going back and forth because they were paying Ice Cube and them to drink the St. Ides that they were promoting in their drinks. The same thing. And then it moved to guns. The thing I say, the song that sticks in my head, that I come from a 2-parent household, good family and all that kind of stuff. But the B's ain't S but H's and tricks is forever grained in my head. That from Dr. Dre and forever in my head. I got 2 parents, a mom and a dad, but I still, that plays in my head every single day.
Every single day.
He said every single day.
Man,
chronic is
hey,
there's a lot of people out there that feel the same way as me, but hold that stuff on the inside. I can admit it. Every single day I gotta fight the chronic, because that was ingrained in my head, even though I come from a 2-family household with a strong mother and a strong father.
Okay.
But I agree with, I mean, look, on some level, I agree with, I think we were all in agreement earlier that we all kind of said things that had merit. And I kind of agree with what Nathan says, is that, look, when you are young, it's one thing to say, hey, I might be impressionable, a little bit impressionable with that. The problem that I have is with grown adults who don't outgrow that. Like so sort of like what you said, Terrace, is that it may still be in your head, but mentally you've matured to a point to understand that you know what that is. Like, I can listen to music and I can understand it for what it is, not taking it literally. I could either listen to it for enjoyment or whatever, but know that I don't have to take what I'm listening to and act that out and live it in my daily life. In fact, my life probably is the antithesis of some of the lyrics and things that, some of those songs might have encompassed in our youth. But I have a more difficult time with grown adults who don't grow and mature out of that and develop a mindset that says those lyrics should not apply to you at 28 or 38 in the same way they did when you were 18, right? Like, if you still living off of that with that mindset, that shows like zero growth, zero maturity. And so I think, you got too many, I shouldn't say too many. You have some adults who have just decided that they're going to live in a certain age range. It's kind of like Phil said, I've known 17-year-old men and 70-year-old boys. And there are indeed some 17-year-old men, a lot of 17-year-old men and women who still trying to live the lyrics of, Doggy Style and The Chronic and a whole lot of other stuff.
Kevin, I'm not, I'm not saying that it affects me now, but when you're a child, you do as a child. And whenever I was 18 years old, listening to The Chronic, and I was going out when I was making life decisions, going to the club or going out and meeting, interacting with women, those things are relevant in my head. Similar to if a kid is going out right now and he's going out listening, he's going out gangbanging, he's going to be listening to drill music, which is going to be influenced into his head. That's it.
We just got to blame ourselves for everything, don't we?
Before we get off here, can I rebuttal a statement? My numbers were off, but I did during this. I went and got a little research about the numbers that Thomas Massey and Ed Galleron. Vernon was right. He got 57,000 votes in this primary election in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Thomas Massey got 39 or 40,000 votes, or 40 or 10 in the primary election of 2024. Thomas Massey got a total of 39,000 votes. So Thomas Massey got more votes than he did in the primary of 2024, and then Ed Galleron got 50,000 more votes than that during a primary in a district. And he made a comparison of how many
Massey won against in his last primary, Terrace.
Michael McGinnis and Eric Dieters. They both got 6,000 votes apiece. But you're saying that Ed Galleron and they spent that much money to manufacture 60,000 people coming out of the house and going to the polls and voting in a primary in Kentucky. It just doesn't make sense to me when you look
Sure it does. It makes absolute sense.
When you look at 2026, 2024, 2022, and you got 3 times as many, 300% voter increase, but the percentage didn't change. The voter turnout didn't change as much. The voter turnout isn't 50%, isn't spiked like that. That only the amount of votes casted were collected. So that's the type of discrepancies that I look at whenever I'm trying to make decisions on whether I think elections were fair and clear.
So Terrace, this is why the logic that you have there is flawed. So first of all, you mentioned Eric Dieters and some other guy. I kind of know Eric Dieters a little bit, but essentially you're talking about a primary race that nobody gave a rip about, 2 years ago when Thomas Massey was running, a race that Trump didn't weigh in on or endorse, and that historic levels of campaign finance money wasn't poured into. So you're talking about 2 entirely different races, and the conditions surrounding those races, the attention, the media attention, the hype, everything that was involved in that. And we know that if voters are not motivated, they don't come out, right? And I think that voters were particularly motivated in this race, whether you were pro-Massey or pro-Trump. People had a reason to come out and vote in a primary election. And so you combine that motivation with the amount of money that was spent in there. And of course, the totals are going to be different. It's not necessarily even that Ed Galrine was a better candidate than Eric Dieters or the other guy that you mentioned. What he had that they didn't have was Donald Trump's endorsement and the MAGA machine pouring, millions and millions of dollars into the campaign there. So you can't just look at this is what we do. We just want to take numbers, and you can take numbers, and we all know you can make numbers say anything. But when you look at numbers without context or analysis or conditions, then you draw bad conclusions. And we do that all the time because we simply want to just compare numbers to numbers without saying the conditions are different, the candidates are different. There are a whole lot of factors. It's not one election to the next is not an apples to apples comparison. Right. I mean, it seems in recent years that every election you seemingly get more people who are turning out, to kind of vote. I can't go back and look at the last few presidential elections and maybe take a look at. I know that Biden's win was a historical number of people.
I know.
But before that wasn't Obama's vote. Wasn't Obama's vote like a historic voter turnout? It seems like that as things have become perhaps maybe a little bit more polarized, that people now have
a little bit,
at least in presidential elections. I would venture to say probably since 2000, right, where maybe this started with the whole hanging Chad thing with George W. Bush and what's his name, Al Gore. I would say starting right there, the ante for elections went up from there. And I think people's focus on presidential elections and the votes and the motivation for coming out and the amount, like all of that, I think has escalated since 2000. And so, the reason why Donald Trump didn't win not a single one of those cases is he had no evidence to support any of his claims. To me, if you're manufacturing all of these faulty ballots, I just use common sense. That would be easily verifiable, right?
Okay, so if common sense, he's telling a reporter, if a reporter, if you're interviewing Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is saying, Kevin, I'm telling you that elections are flawed. The system is flawed. I know it because I experienced it, and I know it right now because I'm using the same flawed system to appoint exactly whoever I want. It didn't have to be Ed Galliron. It could have been anybody. It could have been Terrence Horton with the endorsement from Trump, and he was going to make sure that he's sitting there telling you as a journalist, hey, I'm fixing this. I'm telling you it's flawed, and because I'm using the same system that's flawed to put people in office, and then would you deflect and say, Trump, you don't know what you're talking about?
Absolutely. Because I would be like, first of all, Mr. President, if you're fixing elections, if you're admitting that you're fixing elections, I want to know why Congress hasn't impeached you already. If you're admitting that you know how to put your thumb, you're putting your thumb on the scale. That would be my question: is where's Congress? Why haven't you been arrested and impeached?
He says the most outlandish stuff. He's telling you the truth right to your. This is the disconnect that I think I might have. He's telling you the truth right to that reporter's face. He was saying these election systems are flawed. That's why it's taking California so long. And look what happened in California. Mail-in votes, all of a sudden, Spencer Pratt is not in the lead anymore. He's about to get beat by the city council person because they know that he would have been able to beat the Bass lady, who's the Democrat. And Spencer Pratt, who's a Republican, he won. So except for the mail-in votes, and now there's a 1% chance that he's going to lose. This is what he was talking about: the election, the mail-in voting, all these numbers.
Yeah, but everything. But you know what, Sarah? What I would say to that? You're right. There's a lot of people that believe that. I've seen a lot of that. But that's where people who understand things and pay attention to things have to come in and reinforce the basics. And the basics is that everybody understands how California's elections work. This ain't the first year. This happens every single year. Every single year. And it's done so if you're being factual about it and not spreading lies and telling the truth. The reason why it takes so long is because they do a lot of extra stuff to make sure that they get it right and that it's accurate. It's the exact same thing that Republicans say they won't. That's what it does. It takes longer to verify sometimes. So when people say that kind of stuff, we got to push back and tell them the truth.
Yeah. When you say,
they do, Nathan. That stuff gets reported. That stuff gets reported. But what happens is Donald Trump comes in and he spins his web of fabrication and he makes it seem like, why does it take so many days after the election to get? Even if you come out and explain to people, and I know this happens every election from newspapers around the country, because we do it here where we interview boards of elections and we explain to people what the process is and how mail-in ballots and all of that functions, how voting machines work, how they're not hooked up to the internet, all of these different things. And what Donald Trump does is he comes in and says, forget all of that. I know better than you know about, even though I can't produce any evidence, I'm going to just say that it's crooked and rigged and expect you to believe it. And to ask yourself, even though it's already been explained to you why it takes 2 or 3 days, it's just enough for me to cast doubt and aspersion on it. If I can just get you to question it, that's all I need to do. And Donald Trump has been very adept at doing that. I say this over and over again. And this typically happens to every Republican. When Donald Trump lost, and when he lost to Joe Biden, I did an interview with Frank LaRose, the same Frank LaRose who is kissing Trump's butt and doing all of these underhanded things to suppress the vote or make it difficult to vote. I still keep this recording. I still got my notes. You can go back and read the article that I wrote. He went on the record to talk about how ridiculous Donald Trump's assertions were about mass voter fraud and what it would take to execute that kind of thing on a national scale, let alone a statewide scale. He also talked about, like, if you think this was actually going on, that the cabal, whoever is pulling this off in this day and time, in this environment, that somebody wouldn't have come forward with a story or credible evidence or proof to justify something that Donald Trump said. He's in control now, and he can't produce one single shred more of evidence than he produced before then. Whatever happened to, him and Tulsi Gabbard went to Georgia and raided the Georgia voting things, and oh, hey, there's something coming from that. You ain't heard nothing from that. You know why? Because there is nothing. He's not going to produce anything. Wait, let me finish. You remember the election integrity task force that he put together when he won, because he was trying to set up, when he won in 2015, he was trying to set up, or 16, whenever it was he won, He was trying to set up his scenario for 2020 by putting together this task force to prove that there was voter fraud. Guess what the task force came back with, Terrence? Nothing. So he shut it down before they had to come out and say that they didn't find anything. Donald Trump knows as well as anybody. And what's sad for me, Terrence, is that too many people like you who are smart, you're a smart brother, smarter than sometimes the positions you put forth like this one. And it defies the intelligence that you exhibit in so many other areas, and other people too, that they are so in the tank for this man and his lies that they will even defy logic. And it doesn't make it any better because you get people like LaRose who trade up for their own personal things, won't do interviews, because LaRose would never sit down with me today and do the same interview that I did with him back in 2016, because he knows the conversation that he had, and he certainly don't want to answer the kind of questions that I would ask him about where the change of heart comes.
Oh, I would love it. I'm here for that.
Putting him on the record to say, hey, do you stand by what you said in 2016 that Donald Trump lost the election, which he said? Would he articulate that today? And what I'm venturing to guess that if he would be so brave to sit down and do that interview, that he would come up with something similar to what JD Vance said, in that, well, it was the media. It was my perceptions of Donald Trump have changed, and
it was rap music.
He would come up with some kind of bull to.
It was Heimlich bucks, is what it was. It was Heimlich bucks that got JD Vance. He got some Heimlich bucks.
That would be a great segment. Hey, listen, we got some breaking news. Carmelo Anthony found guilty of murder.
Oh man!
Oh, and the stabbing of a student. I believe his name was Austin Metcalf.
Twin. They're the twin that.
Was that the track? Was that the track incident? Or
yes, it was.
Where he claimed that the white athlete threatened him or something like that. He was under a tent and they were telling him he had to move his tent or something like that. That's that case.
It's that case. Yep.
And they found him guilty of murder, huh?
Of murder, and a lot of people were saying this was a black-white thing. A lot of people were saying it was a black-white thing, all-white jury. And
what state was this in, Nathan?
Let me double
Texas.
check.
Yeah, I think it's in Texas.
At the beginning of this trial, when they started raising money for Anthony, and then the person who was raising money for him was doing some. This has not been good from the start.
Yep, Texas.
It hadn't been good from the start.
Yeah, it's been a lot of racial stuff, and he
should have hired Benjamin Crump. He should have gotten Crump.
I don't know. All white jury.
Yeah, man. I mean, I feel for the young man because, the circumstances and I remember when the information, first came out, and I admittedly had lost track of this case since kind of like the initial reports. I knew he was on trial, but I didn't realize that they were in deliberations on this. But man, I felt like at the time when this information came out that this was likely going to be the outcome, because it's always the outcome in these cases where race is an element like this, where it's involved. Because I think Anthony's side of the story was like he was being harassed and threatened by these guys, right? And
correct.
And when they came at him, he defended himself. I hate to say it, but it's always in one of these things where, and I will say this admittedly without knowing what all of the testimony was, because I didn't watch the trial like that. So this is more or less just kind of a gut feeling based on what I know from the initial reports and the information that came out.
Are they? Is that seen? Are they looking for a protest or something like that? Are they looking to?
I think this is a scene from or a live stream from outside the courthouse. So whatever's happening is I'm sure they're trying to catch it.
Someone said in the chat, Benjamin Crump couldn't extort money from this case. That's wild.
See how we do our own people. See how we do our own people. Dang it.
Hey man, look, I'll put it like this. Look, ain't nothing wrong with Benjamin Crump being a great attorney. Arguing cases is no different than when you win big cases, you become a big time attorney, or when you represent or you have some success arguing for certain things, you become the go-to person for that thing. When Johnny Cochran won the O.J. Simpson case, he became an attorney that when people got in trouble, they looked for. I think Crump has kind of become, since Trayvon Martin, and that he has become that type of attorney. And so to try to criticize him or call him an opportunist, because, look, in some cases, perhaps they seek out case. I don't think that's any different than any other attorney that's out there. And in some cases, people seek them out. And so white attorneys do this all the time. You think they don't, but nobody goes up to white attorneys and accuse them of being opportunists for taking certain cases because of their reputation. Man, you got to stop that and come off of that. I expect that from racists who hate that type of thing. But when it comes from our own people who start to talk about many of these folks who are defending and fighting for rights for people who look like you, I just think that's a bad look.
At what cost? At what cost?
And it's not something that we put on white counterparts who do the exact same thing. Don't think they don't.
Hey, I agree with what you're saying. Nat Turner said something about threw shade at a black attorney, and I thought it was funny. I didn't think it was funny. I thought it's the truth. It's the truth coming from anecdotal experience that I've had with Benjamin Crump in the Commonwealth of Kentucky when he came down here and him and Tamika Mallory went through Louisville and did what they did. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at Benjamin. When someone in the chat says something about Benjamin Crump, my antenna is going to go up because I don't think he acted in integrity and with the knowledge that I know that he knew. In my opinion, the guy that just said in the chat too about Todd McMurtry, the guy who is suing, who's picked up the case to sue this Cincinnati with the Herringer case. He's the one who got MSNBC. It got Nick Salmon all that money from MSNBC. So it wasn't a black thing. And I'll just say this, Nate, I don't know you or anything like that, but there's a couple of like I'm anti-black statements because I'm a Republican and I voted for Trump. Hey man, I'm willing to debate you on any topic, anytime, on or off this show. If you want to come on camera, come on, and you're good in the chat over here, but
it'd be so much better on the show.
Yeah,
so
do it on the show. Call in and you pick a subject, and I'll debate you on it. And you bring your evidence. You can bring your rhetoric and how you debate, and I'll bring mine, and we'll see.
And let me say this too about what you said about Crump there, though, Terrence. We forget that an attorney's job is to try to win their case for their client, right? Like I don't want to hire an attorney who's not going to pull out all the stops and do whatever he can which is what was within what is legally permissible to win my case. It's like, hey, look, I get it. The dude on the other side of the Trayvon Martin case, people had feelings about him, but his job was to try to represent his client and win that case. And so when you go into court, the idea of an attorney, whether he's for you or against you, is to try to win and prosecute the case within the law. Now, if you're doing things like, again, prosecutorial misconduct or attorney misconduct, things that are not within the law, then yes. But outside of that, that's the job of an attorney. I wouldn't want to hire an attorney that wasn't trying to, within the framework of the law, win a case for me. So it kills me when people are like, well, Crump did this, Crump, he trying to win. What do you, what do you expect? That's his job. That's what they hired him for. And
when
so,
you grift in the Black community, that's not cool. I don't think.
How is that grift in the community?
As soon as something goes in the Black community, Benjamin Crump is the first person, whether it's good, bad, or ugly, and whether you like it or not, you can like it if you want. I personally don't care for it. I don't think.
So who's supposed to show up then, Terrence? So I hear this about Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, all of these different people. Who is supposed to? Here's the thing that you guys forget about these individuals. Many of them have the cachet, the network, and the ability to bring attention to issues that need attention brought to it. So as much as people hate on Sharpton and Jesse and all of these other people, a lot of this stuff that gets national profile, that gets attention, is because they show up, because they have the rep and the connections to bring things that authorities or others would sweep under the rug, to bring it to the surface, right? Like, so my question for you is who is supposed to show up? Because a lot of times when they don't show up, there have been people in the community who have been showing up and they ain't been getting no traction with what they doing, but Crump, Al, and Jesse show up, the TV cameras show up when they there, and now all of a sudden a small group of people in the town who wasn't getting no pub or no attention or no traction or movement are suddenly getting that because they show up. So my question to you is, you look at it as grift because of what they're getting, right? Okay, what man or woman is not going to want to receive payment for the services that they render? And I would imagine in a lot of these cases, at the forefront, some of these people probably ain't got the money to afford Benjamin Crump. He probably take a lot of stuff on the humble in the beginning from folks, knowing that maybe he's going to sue a police department or something down the road and get his there. So I think, like, again, we just got to get off of some of these narratives, because my question to you is, show up, who else is going to show up and bring attention to issues that's going to get traction and movement?
So whenever you're talking about the Al Sharptons and there are people who are bringing up these, and I agree with you, if they don't bring it up, who brings it up? But whenever, like, let's say Al Sharpton, because you brought him up, his initial claim to fame was brought by a lie. The Tamika Brawley case was definitively a lie, but he still stuck with it, right? And he still stuck with it. He still received the favor from the people because he stuck with the script of the false narrative and the lie. Therefore, he gets to get on these platforms and continue to build on.
Has he not spoken on that, Terrence? Has he not owned it?
Okay. Let me so he passes the torch to Tamika Mallory, and he teaches Tamika Mallory everything he knows, and she's the next in line to go out there to be the social justice warrior and to take over it. And then she does the exact same thing with Benjamin Crump by her side. That's a grift.
Wait a minute, Terrence. So let me stop you. So since we're going to talk about coaching trees, so to speak, let's not forget that King was at the top of that coaching tree. And who learned under King? Jesse Jackson. And who did Al Sharpton learn under? Okay, so if you're going to say that the tactics that are being employed by Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton or whatever is race hustling, then you agree with the same white people who said Martin Luther King Jr. was doing the same thing when he was fighting for civil rights, because they all come from the same civil rights tree and playbook.
And see,
whatever you want to say about
modernizing these guys,
they all are part of that same tree.
You get in the comments and you got people like who say that since I sleep white and talk black, but then you martyrize these guys who are not good people, and you're like, okay, just as long as they get the message out there, and they're
what are you basing them not being good people on, Terrence?
Off of FBI evidence that was released that these aren't good people. These aren't. If you're a reverend, you ain't supposed to be doing things that were that are put out in these federal documents. And these are the people that, once again, I believe that sometimes we are misleaded and we're misleading, and the Democratic Party just strings people along, and you guys go along with it every single time.
What you just said. First of all, I will say this: as a pastor and as a man of God, and as you being a person of faith as well, you ought to ascribe to this same thing, that nobody is perfect. There but for the grace of God go I, and we're all sinners saved by grace. And there should be no pastor alive that's out there representing himself as perfect, or somebody who doesn't have a past, or who haven't made a mistake. That doesn't make you a bad person. That if you've made a bad decision or made a mistake, it means that you're a flawed individual, that if you admit to those mistakes and make corrections, God does provide forgiveness, for those things. People don't, but God does. And what I was going to say, you brought up the Tawana Brawley. I think Al Sharpton has spoken on that. And I think he has admitted that, if I'm not mistaken, Nathan, you correct me if you know, but I think Al Sharpton has addressed that in the years since, and has talked about maybe some of the missteps that he had in that particular case. And so because he may have made one bad decision or gotten one thing wrong, that suddenly that discredits 40 or 50 years of positive work that he's done for a community. Look, I don't understand, Terrace, how this is the problem that people on the chat have with you, Terrace, because you're inconsistent. So how can you sit here and vilify a reverend and say that they're a bad person, yet you voted for the ultimate bad person, maybe the Antichrist himself? You voted for that. No. Let me finish, Terrace. Is Donald Trump a good man?
You mentioned Jesse Jackson.
No. That's a yes or no. That's a yes or no question. Terrace, that's a yes or no question. Terrace, that's a yes or no question. Is Donald Trump a good man? Yes or no question. What are you thinking about? He's either a good man or he's not. Because you're trapped. That's why you're sitting over there hemming and hawing.
I'm not trapped. I'm listening to everything that you're saying. You're trying to get me to answer a question. You're asking me to answer a question. You're taking all those things and all the biblical and the Christian.
I'm just taking what you just said, brother.
Al Sharpton is he's redeemable. But Donald Trump has no redemption qualities at all. Is that what you're saying to me? You want me to answer the question and say if Donald Trump is good or a bad guy? But I'm saying I can't judge him. I have no respect to person. My biggest thing is when they're talking to me about having a white wife, I have no respect to person. I don't see race when I'm talking about race. I'm talking about
you're an inconsistent hypocrite, brother. I don't mean that I don't mean that disrespectfully. Because you're gonna sit here and villainize Al Sharpton, and
I didn't villainize him. I did not villainize.
You said they weren't good. You said they weren't good. You said he wasn't a good man. Wait a minute, Terrace. Did you not say who were you talking about when you said these guys aren't good men? Were you not talking about Sharpton?
I did not villainize Al. I said did I say he's not a good man?
You said he wasn't a good man. You said these reverends out here doing stuff that they weren't supposed to be doing.
His tactics that he got to gain power was not those of one who I would want to follow myself. How about that? I wouldn't follow Al Sharpton, Joe Biden, Barack Obama. I would not follow them guys. I wouldn't follow
Barack Obama.
I would not follow them guys. Donald Trump. I would not follow them guys. I can't put those in any of those guys up there in moral standing good man, because I know what it takes to get to that next level.
Terrace, stop, please, Terrace, stop, because you're only digging yourself a deeper hole.
I don't feel like I'm digging. I don't feel like
if you want to sit here, Terrace, if you want to sit here and be taken, if you want to be taken as anything credible or anything less than crazy, you can't sit up here and say, I would not follow Barack Obama. but I would follow Donald Trump.
I didn't say I'd follow Donald Trump. See, I said I would not follow Donald Trump. I would not follow Barack Obama. I would not follow any of those guys that I do not find morally right. I would not follow any of those guys. Donald Trump, Al Sharpton, and Benjamin Crump all in the same. I did not say I would follow Donald Trump. I did not one bit. I put them all in the same token. I did not.
But you did. You followed him with your vote. A vote makes you a follower.
Y'all want me to follow somebody? No, Kamala. Y'all wanted me to follow Kamala Harris, who was lying to your face. Y'all would rather have somebody lie to y'all. Y'all would rather have somebody lie to you in your face and said when Donald Trump tells you the truth, y'all, Donald Trump's telling the truth. Hey, he's saying he told that lady elections are fraud, and then you guys are like, oh, he's. I don't get it.
Hey, Nathan, I just listened to what the man says and I spit it back. He says Sharpton and these reverends out here doing stuff because of their tactics and what they're doing, they're not good men. Yet Terrace put his vote. He put his vote behind a man with 34 felony convictions.
And y'all want me to vote
for a convicted of sexual assault. Who openly admitted on video that he gropes women and that they like it, and he can do it because he's famous. This is a man who we know paid hush money to a porn star from the White House. This is a man who we know has been divorced multiple times.
That has nothing to do with anything. Solomon's been having many wives. Solomon had many. Y'all, you call me. Y'all pick and choose whatever you guys want to vilify Donald Trump and I'm telling you, I could care less if Donald Trump is president or not. I'm looking to
you don't care. You voted for
the next black leader the next black leader who's going to be the head face of the media of black media, not being somebody like Al Sharpton, not being somebody like Don Lemon, like being somebody who.
What's wrong with Don Lemon and Al Sharpton? What did they do that was so reprehensible?
Coming from left-leaning individuals, you would not have no problem with them. I have a different perspective, and that's why I'm on this hot mic so I can speak. You guys can call me whatever, and you guys can say whatever you guys want about me, about like not making sense, but it doesn't make sense to you guys. I'd like to see him debate. I'd like to see Al Sharpton debate Dr. James Manning, 1, and Candace Owens, 2.
No,
Dr. James Manning would eat him up.
That might be good, but I want to see you debate him.
Al Sharpton.
Tell him.
If Al, oh man,
if you can say anything to Al Sharpton, go ahead and say it right now. Al is not to be played with.
Hey, Nathan, the only issue of late that I have with Al Sharpton is he lost too much neck weight. That's the only issue that I got with Al Sharpton right now. He lost too much weight in his neck. That's it. Otherwise, Al has been out here for a bunch of years fighting on behalf of, and in a lot of cases, taking on a lot of the battles that many black folks and many communities could not take on their own. Is he a perfect individual? No, nobody is. But I'll tell you what, as black folks, we throw each other away so much more quickly than white folks do other white folks. And Donald Trump is a perfect example of that. We will throw, particularly black men, we will throw black men away and throw them under the bus. You ain't even got to do something all the way wrong. You can just do it halfway wrong and you're done. And I think that is a pathology that we have taken on. I say a lot of this just dates back to slavery because these are messages and things that have been ingrained in us by the majority culture, primarily to keep us divided and to allow us to be, easily controlled and assimilated. Black Lion would probably amen, a lot of those sentiments. But I do believe that that's true, and we got to be careful about, internalizing and saying that and carrying the message and the water of people who are not fighting for your rights, but will vilify and try to take down people who actually are. And I think that many of our black leaders, look, it's well documented that J. Edgar Hoover had was that Martin Luther King was under surveillance with his activities because he had become such a powerful force that Hoover and those guys were looking to set him up or do anything they could to get on him to dilute his power, his influence, and his ability. It is an age-old tactic that every black leader eventually runs into. Throw a little dirt on them, get your own people to turn on them, and I can effectively neuter you. Because so long as there is no one who can galvanize us or get a critical mass of us together to stand for something, we're easy to keep down. And that's been the playbook for history. And I just hate to see, people play into that. I mean, who on the white side is grifting, Terrence? What white grifters you know?
Paula White, Dana White, the McMahons,
all of them in your boys' orbit. Everybody you just named is
Ed Gallerine. Anybody, the list goes on and on and on. That people that are sucking on Donald Trump right now, who are grifting on Donald Trump.
So why don't we talk about them instead of chopping Al Sharpton off at the knee? Why don't we talk about how all of these grifters, including the grifter in chief, is getting over on you? That's the main thing. I'm like, I don't understand how anybody fixes their mouth to talk about Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, or anybody else, and you voted for the biggest grifter of all time.
Where did Jesse Jackson get his money from when he's running his 1984 and 1988 campaign? From Donald Trump. Who borrowed money from Donald Trump? Al Sharpton borrowed money from Donald Trump.
What's your point?
Went and got cash from Donald Trump and said, hey, man, I heard this Trump guy, he'll give you some money to start a business and to do that. So he went over to Donald Trump. Al Sharpton, your man. So come on, man.
So what's your point?
What is the point?
All that kind of stuff. He's going to do all that kind of stuff. But that's not, he's still redeemable in your eyes. He's still redeemable. He's still the face of Black America. He's still the person you want your kids to look up to.
No, he's just a person. He's a personality. He's a civil rights leader. He's nobody in the Black community is all caught up with Al Sharpton like that. That's an old person kind of thing. Okay. And that's just people recognize the work he put in, and he's a complicated man, but they think overall he has the best interest. But we already know that Al. We already know who Al is. Al
okay, you guys accept that. You guys accept who he is.
Why are we talking about Al Sharpton?
I do not. I do not accept him as a leader in the Black community who I want my sons to look up to, and I will teach myself. So and for all the reasons why y'all are sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm wrong. I'm like, I can go back and say the same guy who they're caping for was on Donald Trump's, was doing the same thing, and I'm telling you, in 2 years from now, he'll probably go back to Donald Trump and say, "Hey, can I get some more money? Can I borrow?" The Democrats only gave me $500,000 over here. I will come over here and get some more real money. I bet he'd go now if Trump went for him and put more money in his face. What the Democrats do?
Everybody but Donald Trump. Yeah, and talk about everybody but Donald Trump. You want to? I mean, you are tiptoeing. You are sprinting around. I mean, you're talking about everybody, but you will not say that Trump word.
I already said that he's not a moral, upright guy. He's not somebody who I would.
Bad guy. Say he's a bad guy.
He is not somebody who I would hang out with.
That's what you say. He's a bad guy.
Donald Trump,
because that's what you said about them black preachers. You said them black preachers was bad guys.
He's not somebody who I'd want to hang out with. I know several people.
Why can't you say he's a bad guy?
I know several people who have been around Donald Trump and said that he's not a bad man. I don't know anybody who's been around Al Sharpton that has not said, you got to watch yourself around that dude.
Man, what are you talking about? You are just making stuff up.
He is, Nathan. He's like a dude that dove into the deep end and can't swim. He just splashing around trying to keep his head above water.
No, I'm not. I'm good.
Those are the worst arguments I've ever heard, Terrence, and that's saying something.
How is my argument that bad whenever the person who you're trying to tell me is a good person? Comparing Comparing Al Sharpton as an iconic hero, and he went and got money from the person who you guys have Trump deranged syndrome from. That doesn't make sense to me. If he's such a leader, he wouldn't have. You say what I would ask Al Sharpton. I'd say, how much money did you get from Donald Trump? How much money have you received from Donald Trump throughout your lifetime? And have you paid it all back?
What difference does that make?
Grifting. We were talking about grifters. Grifters, right? I thought that's what we were talking about Al Sharpton. I didn't think we were talking about. I was talking about how Al Sharpton and how Benjamin Crump grift against the black community.
What is your definition of grifting?
Someone who takes a problem in the black community, similar to how like that league of they were trying to, the people who spent the money to have the insurrection so they could cause the problem. That's the same thing with Al Sharpton. He'll create a problem so that he can have a job.
Wait a minute. See, Terrace, that is so inaccurate.
You asked me a question. You asked me a question.
You act like Al Sharpton and some of these other people asked the cops to beat up Rodney King or asked them to bust into what was the lady's name in Louisville that got
Breonna Taylor.
Breonna Taylor. That these guys that Benjamin Crump wanted that dude to kill Trayvon Martin. That he set all of that up. See, this is straight out of the white supremacist playbook. When injustices are perpetrated against black people and black people say something about it, oh, you're stirring up trouble. You one of them troublemaking so-and-sos. You're creating problems. No, you killing us created the problem. Don't get it twisted. So when Al Sharpton shows up where a problem, or Crump has showed up where a problem has already happened, trust they did not create that. And that is so. Wait a minute. So this is where see you've been drinking too much Trump Kool-Aid, and Terrence, this is why this is why my argument with you has been this today. You're inconsistent, brother. If you had some consistency about it, if you had, but you just couldn't allow yourself to go there. If you had said, "Hey, Sharpton is a grifter, I don't like him," and Trump is a grifter.
It has nothing to do with Trump. It has nothing. And you just brought up Breonna Taylor, and I'm going to bring this back around. And Breonna Taylor and Benjamin Crump, Al Sharpton's person, his protege, Tamika Mallory, came down here and was told the very truth. They went on the podium just like the same thing Al Sharpton did with Tamika Mallory or Tamala Brownlee back in the day whenever he knew the truth. But he went on record and still lied to the people. Come on, Kevin, you can't play. I get it. I get what you're trying to do. You're trying to win, or not win an argument. You're trying to articulate your spell. But I'm presenting facts here. I'm presenting facts here. Tamika Mallory and Benjamin Crump in the Louisville case where Breonna Taylor were brought in a room and told certain facts. They still went to the podium and told the people something altered. And also, it's the same thing, same exact thing that Al Sharpton did with the Tamika Brawley case, when he knew she had lied. He knew he made up the story.
I think you
went to the press, and he still said, no, she still did it. That is exactly what happened. And you guys are going to get on this show, and you're going to try to take my comparisons where I'm saying Al Sharpton lied, and
you're leaving out an important part, Terrace.
What's the important part?
Everything you said. Everything. I'm just saying, bro. Everything you say, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying you're right. You just missed a big part. So the big part that you're missing, and this is to my recollection, I have not, gone back to double check to see. But as much as I can recall, Tawana Brawley she lied to the Reverend to Al Sharpton. And he didn't know until afterward, and then he came out publicly and he had egg on his face. And I think that's
incorrect. That's
not incorrect.
But I think what's happened here is people have propagandized that scenario. People that don't like him, don't like his work, and they've tried to take that. I don't even think you call that a mistake, because quite personally, I think it's valiant for somebody to say they're gonna step up for a sister, a little black girl
who lied.
Well, she did lie, but I'm saying Al Sharpton didn't know it at that moment. At
And when
that
he said
moment,
that,
you
he
had
should have said, hey, we should set an example of her and not to lie. He built his career off that. That's my whole argument with this.
No, that's
He
not your
built his
argument.
career
Your
off of-
argument,
Yeah,
your
no.
argument. That's not your argument, Terrence.
Right.
To me, you seem
So
to
they
be.
continue to do that. He's setting up the precedent for others to follow him to do that same way. I would never follow
And
anybody.
there's nothing wrong with people doing that. You're trying to villainize or criminalize something that happened that he had nothing to do with. And it's like, you will not accept this reality. Tawana Brawley lied to him as well.
Yes.
And I think it's valiant for somebody to say, I'm going to stick up for a young sister. And she's talking about police officers. That took a lot of heart. And yeah, she lied about it. And yeah, it was wrong. He admitted it. That's it. That's all. That's not like some kind of like stain on his record. That's not a stain on his record because Tawana Brawley lied to him.
You guys say that I'm inconsistent, that this is such an inconsistent argument, because if it was a white person who wrongly accused black officers of doing something, and then the white officer, the white lawyer came out and defended this white girl for trying to falsely accuse black officers, we would be in outrage. This is what I'm talking about. You call say that this is the inconsistency.
No, you're wrong. You're
guys.
wrong. If you flip this, and let's say you had a racial dynamic in it with a young girl, or we flip it back to your original point. But no, you're wrong about that. In that case, if you had flipped this racially and it wasn't the Reverend Al Sharpton, if the lawyer, it depends. If this white lawyer was as pro civil rights for black people as the Reverend Al was, he would have got some of that heat. He would have got some of that heat. It wouldn't have been the same.
This is why we're in the situation we're in, where you guys having Democratic leaders like this. This is the reason why black people are where they are in 2026. We have not.
What you were expressing is
that's definitely subjective. That's why that's why you guys throw your votes away to the Democratic Party since 1964. That's what black people have been throwing their votes away for no representation. Your big leader is Al Sharpton. Al Sharpton.
I would say that it's much more accurate.
Al Sharpton. Come on. He couldn't even get elected.
It's not that black people have been throwing their votes away. It's not just a black people thing. It's not just black people who haven't been getting the bang out of their votes. It's really a whole lot of people, and it cuts across racial lines. It's working class people haven't really gotten a bang out of it. We like to say it's black people because it fits a certain political agenda, but that's not really accurate.
Black people have been voting 97% for the Democratic Party since 1964.
And there's a whole lot of white people who've been voting.
Is that you guys are putting Al Sharpton on this pedestal? Al Sharpton is your guy.
You're putting him on a pedestal. I don't think I am. I haven't heard Kevin do that. But you're wrong about that in the sense that there's a whole lot of white working class people who have been voting their whole lives. Their grandparents voted their whole lives. Their parents voted. And right now they're thinking, it ain't really having an impact on me. So it's not just a black thing. It's a working class thing. Working class people's votes have been diluted because of the powerful impact of money in politics. Period.
And there's no money in politics on the Democratic side that is used to fuel the Act
I'm
Blue.
cutting across Democrat and Republican.
Yeah, I'm talking about Act Blue. Like Al Sharpton doesn't get from Act Blue. Like Al Sharpton doesn't get to receive funding for political plaques like Act Blue. This is the takeaway I'm getting from all your y'all chastising me and telling me I'm irrational, is that you guys put Al Sharpton up there as y'all's leader. Y'all, that's y'all's guy. Y'all like,
why you keep coming back to this?
Whatever now. That's
just like Trump is your guy. Just like Trump is your guy, Terrence.
I could denounce Trump and say, after 2 years from now, Trump is nothing to the Republican Party.
Trump is your guy. Trump is your guy.
Right now, Trump's my guy. Al Sharpton's yours.
Al Sharpton with your red MAGA hat. That's what you need to say. Instead of elephant in the room, MAGA man. Put that on your title and wear your red hat onto the show. From now on, just admit it. You'll feel better if you just admit it, because everybody listening to you already knows the truth.
The only person that can reach Terrence
already made it readily apparent by your answers or non-answers on here. And I think what is so sad I think what is so sad is that you will cape for people who have no interest, none of your interests, or no interest of people who look like you, who ain't even thinking about you. You will cape and parrot their talking points while at the same time tearing down individuals as flawed as they may be, who have spent a lifetime trying to stand up for people who could not stand up for themselves or could not get traction and voice. And I quite frankly think that's sad. I'm not sitting up here saying Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton or anybody who's attempted to lead was perfect, because nobody is. Everybody is imperfect. But you know the difference between Al Sharpton and Donald Trump, in my opinion, what makes one redeemable and one not, is exactly what Nathan said. When Al Sharpton got it wrong, when he believed a lie and parroted that lie and found out that it was a lie, he repented. He said, I was wrong. He acknowledged it. Yet Donald Trump, despite his myriad of transgressions, grifts, and sin, says, I don't think I've ever prayed for forgiveness in my life because I've never done anything that were wrong that would require me to ask for forgiveness. So I'm not saying Donald Trump is irredeemable because that's my opinion. Any man who would say that he is above asking God forgiveness and has never done anything wrong has declared himself as irredeemable.
Okay, I can get with that. I was going to say the only person that can reach Terrace is Alandis Powell. She's the only one. She's the only one that can reach him.
Hey, I dear Alandis because I have 3 older sisters. That's probably 3 older. And to the people in the chat that said something about me being mixed, I'm blackity black. Both parents black. Alabama cotton picker black. Grew up black family, black church, all the way black.
Don't try to throw that Alabama stuff in there for ICE agents that might be watching. Don't try to throw that in there. I'm a foundational Black American.
I am foundation black. Both my great grandparents are born on this soil. Been here since 1880 something. Love black people. But my scripture reading today, right here today, was Proverbs, and it's highlighted. It says, "No respect of person, no respect of person." So all that sleek white talk black stuff, it doesn't affect me because I serve a master that sees no respect of person. So that's how I look at things. I can be pro-black. I can love the tribe of Judah. I can love my people and love everybody around me as well. If you don't have that in your heart to do, I'm sorry that you don't have those empathy receptors, but I do, and I love everybody.
Well, speaking of those empathy receptors, go ahead and say you love Donald Trump.
I love everybody. I even love Al Sharpton. I love Al Sharpton too. I love Al Sharpton. I love Donald Trump. I love
there it is.
I love Kamala Harris.
I just want to hear say Donald Trump is a bad guy. I just want to hear that.
Donald Trump is a bad guy.
All of these ministers out here that was bad guys for doing what they did. I want to hear Donald Trump is a bad guy. I want to hear the I don't need forgiveness from God. Grab the coochie, 34 felony. Donald Trump is a bad guy.
That's subjective.
Check to a porn star from the Resolute desk. I want to hear that guy.
I can say that all you want, but the fact of the matter is the Democratic Party put up Kamala Harris, and she got dog walked by this guy who y'all talking about is so bad. Y'all could have put up Al Sharpton. You should have put up matter of fact, y'all should get Al Sharpton to run against the next Democratic primary.
Why is it just me, Kevin? But when you say Kamala Harris, you say it just like Trump, Terrace.
He does.
You say it just like Trump. Kamala Harris. Carmel Harris.
We're going to get him some hooked on phonics.
Oh, my God.
Get the pronunciations correct. Listen, Terrace, you know I love you, man, but you got to get your arguments together, brother. You got to be more consistent. You can't stand up here and act like character and morals and ethics matter to you, and you cast your vote for the most immoral, unethical.
That's so
individual.
subjective. That's so subjective.
It's not. It's really not, Terrence. It's really not subjective.
When I articulate the reason why I voted for him, and you can say whatever you wanted to, but
no, I'm just saying Terrence. I'm only responding to
Donald Trump stands on this moral high ground, and I think he's some savior to our country. He was a horrible pick for president, but compared to what the Democratic Party gave us, I'd do it again.
I'm just only going off of what you said, Terrence, that you can't follow. These are your words, brother. I could not follow a certain type of individual. I'm paraphrasing that, but that's essentially what you're saying. Is I can't follow a certain type of person, and you made that statement based on some character, moral, and ethics things. So what I'm trying to say is, regardless of what you might have thought, if you make it sound like your ability to follow somebody is dependent upon their character, morals, and ethics. And if you want to sit here and tell me that Kamala Harris's morals and ethics or Barack Obama's are anything comparable to that of Donald Trump, that's what I got a problem with.
Okay. Here. I'm gonna leave. I'm not gonna say anything else after this one. I'm just gonna we can end the show.
Because Barack Obama was not an immoral man.
And you just meant you said Barack Obama. You said Kamala Harris too.
I said Kamala Harris. As far as I know, she's not immoral.
There's people in the chat wanting to take away my black card because I'm married to a white woman. But Kamala Harris, who is questionably black, is married to a white man, and y'all cape for her more than y'all would a foundational black American. This is why when y'all say anything about my having holes in my story or having inconsistencies or anything like that, I bring up situations like this to say, you guys have more holes than Swiss cheese. Because how can you sit there, and I'm not going to say you two, but if you agree with these people in the chat saying that if someone's married to a white person, and then you sit around and you cape for Kamala Harris and say she's a black woman, oh, we got her back, our sister, and she's married to a white man, but since I'm married to a white woman, come on, man. It makes no sense.
I will say this: love is love, regardless of the race of the individual that you are with. Be with who wants to be with you, who loves you, who's going to take care of you, regardless of what race they are. You can still be socially minded and conscious of, your people and be married to somebody who is not, necessarily of your race. There are people who are of a certain religion who are married to atheists or people who are other religions. Does that mean that they don't necessarily ascribe to their particular religion? These may not be choices I make or somebody else makes. Everybody makes the choices that they make. You being married to a white woman is not a disqualifier of anything for you. Look, when we get into debates, Terrence, it's enough for me that I don't need to pull in these other things. I can just talk about what you're saying and the points to point out. I don't need to pull in that you're married to a white woman to make my point or make my case or any of that. In fact, to me, like most of that just muddies the water and takes away from my ability to make the case that I want to make absent that, because now that gives anybody who wants to take that cheese and out from debating the legitimate issues. And I agree with you. I say on this pod all the time, I talk about inconsistency on this pod all the time. I do it all the time. And I don't disagree with you that there are cases where that does happen. I may even be guilty of it from a time or two myself. But the reality is being able to look at, and I say this all the time to Nathan, when things are said on this show, I go back and think about it. And I say to myself, and there have been many times where I've stood 10 toes down on something. And then after I've thought about it with introspection, maybe a little bit more research, I come back and I say, you know what? Y'all was right. I was wrong on that. I didn't really quite see it that way. And there's no shame in that. But we get to a point now where, brother, you was dead to rights in that argument, but you could not allow yourself opportunity.
Al Sharpton one.
Just say, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if you're going to make the point that character and ethics matter to you to the extent that you're going to condemn Al Sharpton, you can't then turn around and justify a vote for somebody who's 10 times worse. And that's
Okay.
not
Kevin? How is that, Kevin, when Al Sharpton went to Donald Trump to borrow money?
So Terrence, let me ask you this. So Terrence,
come on, man. That just doesn't make any sense.
Let's use this as an example, right? So you have DJ'd for my Ohio Kings games. You've been very generous. You've donated some prizes and things of that nature, right? I accepted those because of the nature of the relationship that we have now. 20 years from now, let's just say it can either be me or it can be you. One of us goes out and we commit some horrible crime, or we do something totally immoral or unethical that brings disdain and ill repute on you, and somebody rolls up on you and says, Terrence, man, how could you have been supporting, the Ohio Kings, and you even gave some money to Kevin, and look at what he's doing now? What would your answer to that question be?
I would say, hey, that's so far. If you, okay, the analogy will be,
no, it's not.
If you ran for political office, because they did not have a problem with Donald Trump until he ran for president. So if you ran for political office and you ran on the Democratic side and I was a Republican, or I ran for president on a Republican side, and the Democratic shields came to you, the NAACP, and all these people came to you and said, Kevin, if you have to denounce your relationship with Terrence all the way, although he's been good and you don't see nothing wrong with him, but since he's running for president on this side, we're going to cut your funding off if you don't start actively talking about him. I see that's the scenario. It's not about if I did something of bad acumen or some kind of like a crime or something. This all happened when Donald Trump ran for president. Let's not make the situation different than what it is. It's when Donald Trump ran for president, everybody turned against him.
You know why people turned against Donald Trump? Because of what he said and what he espoused and what he put forward. Look, I'm not going to dispute the fact that there are a lot of black people who were on board with Donald Trump before he ran for politics, right? But in his political run, Donald Trump stood up for some things, said some things, and executed some policies that I would then say, and this is an acceptable answer, and this is the answer that I would give if the situations were reversed and you had done something. I would say, you know what, when Terrence was doing that and I knew him back then, that wasn't who I knew him to be. Terrence was a different guy. I didn't think he was capable of that back then. I'm shocked by what I see now. That would be my answer. I would still say I don't approve of him, doing whatever it was that he did, but that wasn't the dude that I knew. And so I think what Donald Trump has exposed in his political career are points of view, attitudes, and things that he's willing to do and take advantage of that people may not have known those aspects of him, years ago when he was just showing up at NFL football games or showing up at rap concerts or wrestling events or whatever. But when the sheep's clothing come off and the wolf exposes himself, that changes your position.
What if the mainstream media knew that and the Democratic Party came out and said Donald Trump funded Jesse Jackson? Donald Trump, Al Sharpton went and got money from Donald Trump. Donald Trump Donald
Trump used to be a Democrat.
So that's what people don't talk about. There we go. So it's not about me or anybody committing a crime after 20 years. It's about switching political parties. And you just admitted that if someone runs against the way that you guys feel like that you should run, of Donald Trump or me or anybody would be on a Republican side, they're automatically public enemy number one.
No, not automatically public enemy number one because you're a Republican. It's what you stand for. It's the policies that you come up with. So I would say to you, Terrence, if there were policies that you didn't agree with that I thought were hurtful to black people or hurtful to the country, I would say that. If you were, as a politician, if you were running on those platforms, I would say that, and I would probably have an issue with you. But I would discuss it with you similar to how we debate these issues here. I mean, I've been on point with saying, hey, look, everybody who I'm friends with and who I love, I don't agree with on everything. I didn't agree with my mama on every issue. That don't mean that I didn't love my mama. And we used to get into some knockdown dragouts on some things, but I'm not gonna throw my mother away because we have relationship, we have love there. It's easy to throw away people that you ain't got relationship and love with when you disagree with their points versus people that you have connection with. So even if I disagree with your policy, I'm gonna argue with you. I may even speak against it. I may even say I don't even know what terrorist is thinking. This is hurtful to black people, and I don't agree with it. Right? I can stand on what I believe, say you're wrong, and we can still maintain that relationship there. Donald Trump, most people don't know or have a relationship with Donald Trump. What you see from him is what you get for most people. The average American citizen admittedly doesn't really know Donald Trump intimately like people probably closest to him do. But all we have to go off of is what he shows us. And everything that he shows is, I think you would have to agree with this. There's nothing that he shows that shows compassion, that shows any kind of a attempt at understanding or trying to bring people together. He thrives off of conflict. He's as nasty as he can be. He lies. He's a cheater. I mean, there are myriad of things that you can go down the list with this guy. And he is not anybody that I would characterize as a good guy. He just wouldn't be. Because good guys don't do what he does. They don't conduct themselves the way that he does. Doesn't mean that I don't believe anybody can be reclamated or redeemed, but he doesn't want to be because he don't see anything wrong with what he does. And that's why I said I'm not saying he's irredeemable. He's determined that for himself.
All right, guys. I got to make a move.
Good show.
Yeah, appreciate everybody, man.
You had us vibing for this. This got to be the longest hot mic in the history of hot mics.
Yeah. My bad. But we got a chance to connect with people today, so that was good.
Hey, Black Lion, I threw you some red meat today, man. That there's at least a couple points out here, if you've been on here, that you had to agree with me on today, man. I know you say we Negro-peans be going back and forth, but I had to get a couple of amens from you today. Can I at least get that, brother? I mean, you've been raking me. You rake me every show in the comments, man. Can I at least get a broken clock is right, twice a day comment? Can you give me something? It ain't gonna kill you, man.
Why is Kevin more efficient?
I'm sure he's gonna love it when you beat me up, Kevin.
Huh?
When you're beating me up and you're oh,
I just want one crumb from Black Lion, and I'll leave it alone.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
And if it is, it's gonna be like a backhanded compliment. So just get ready.
I'd even take that, man. Just I just want to see.
It's a trap.
How much pride that brother got.
Black Lion. See, I've done it so many times. He hates it, but I tamed Black Lion many times during the Nathan Ivey show. Many times, tamed him, whipped him. You know what I'm saying? Led him around by his leash. So he already know what it is over here. But I'm just telling you, you gotta deal with Black Lion with force. You can't try to be friends with him.
Is that what it is?
You can't try to be friends with him because it ain't gonna work.
Has he ever called in?
Oh, heck yeah. Well, not to this show. Maybe once or twice he came on, but back when I was doing the digital show, yeah, absolutely. He was as much as I could stand him, because at some point he started doing certain things that.
Is he the Black Knight Democrat? Was he the one that says I'm Black Knight Democrat?
That's Drop Squad 52.
Okay.
Yeah, but Black Lion, you gotta be firm with him. You got to let him know. Trying to be friends with him, he gonna straight try to take advantage of you. He'll be like, "Yeah, we cool," and then you can be having a conversation one day. Boom! Out comes the knife. Out comes the knife.
I tell you what, though, man. I respect the blade, though. I don't mind. I don't mind a good worthy adversary if you can find that. So I don't mind that. And so I know he be giving me the business in the chat, and it's all good. It's all good.
That means he likes you.
And what about
iron sharpens iron? I'll take that. You know,
what about Matt Turner? Does he ever come on? Is he just a chat room guy? Will he come on and debate, or is he?
Oh, he'll come on. He'll come on, but you've got to get your lion wrangling license in order to be able to deal with him. You can only earn that with blood and tissue. So, I mean, go ahead, man. You know, go through the process, put in your bid for your license. I got mine. So.
Hey, he said, hey, look, he got in the comments, he said, Nate Ivy, I've been dragging your big A for 2 decades. You put me on black ice to stop the onslaught.
Why he talk like a cartoon villain, man, to stop the onslaught.
I gotta say, man, this show, I love this show. I mean, we've been on too long today, but I love it. Man. I can't even front.
Hey, Pat, good to see you. So, Nate, Black Lion be running? Running. Yeah, like in a conversation. Yeah. Like when you get him a conversation and you hit your point and he don't have nowhere to wriggle to, he'll just say the most ridiculous stuff or repeat some of his favorite lyrics. Hey, what's up? Good to see you, JD. Saw JD earlier. Yeah, Kroger today. That was me. Oh, man. All right, well, guys, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Yep.
Very much. That's hilarious.
Appreciate the soldiers who hung in here for this marathon show, man. Y'all.
Oh, yeah.
Almost had a good job.
We're building a community. We're building a community. That's how you do it.
I love that.
Sometimes you gotta go long. All right, take it easy, guys.
We'll see you guys.
Have a great Tuesday, guys. We'll be back on Friday. At least that's what the plan is. Planning to be back on Friday at 1.